and welcome to the 5th edition of Top Guy Theater. Mike, mute your microphone because they're watching you and not me. We're going to watch Royal Rumble 1994 today, but hey, our special guest today, we got 3 great ones. Well, first, let's go through our regular panel. Our attorney at law from Wichita, Kansas, Matt Levitt.
Salutations.
Up in Corning, New York, Henry Evingham.
How we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Oh, fat and sassy, my friend. Phil Jackson is missing in action. Frank Bruno, where's this show at tonight?
The greatest state in the Union, Rhode Island, Providence. I'm excited.
That's just bizarre that you would know that right offhand like that. Up also in New York, in the Rochester area, the driver of the party bus, Antonio Santos.
Guys, how you doing?
Cheers. And in Scottsdale, Arizona, Karl Mandick. Our 3 guests, the resident Kurt Angle of Ad Free Shows from Stillwater, Oklahoma, Travis. What's happening, buddy?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Doing well. From Crown Point, Indiana, my Hoosier neighbor, Mike Kolb.
Let's get weird.
He's the brother of Kevin, if you remember him from the Buffalo Bills. And then from Down Under, I'm so excited to talk to this guy today. Glad he's on. Bharat Sundaresan.
Perfect. I've got the original tan and I've got the original hair. Just give me the title, brothers.
He's got the second best hair in ad-free shows.
Well, I think Mrs. Bischoff felt I was number 1, so let's leave it at that. You know,
that's fair. I can't go against Lori. I can't go against Mrs. B. And Lord knows if you would have been in WCW in 1998, you would have been World Heavyweight Champion after Starrcade.
No, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I've got everything going.
Yeah, it's incredible. So today's show, Royal Rumble 1994, is what you guys voted on, which, by the way, this poll got more votes than we've ever gotten before. We beat last week's number, which was the highest we've ever had. So thank you for everyone for participating. And actually, this one in a landslide. ECW Anarchy Rules 2000 was the second. It was backed by like 18%. So this one in a landslide. We're going to pay homage to Yokozuna today. And when we were talking about this show, so we wanted to do the Yoko episode, but we were pitching ideas to each other about what show best represents Yokozuna. I said Rumble 93 because that's the one he wins. He beats Macho Man. And I think it was Frank that suggested this one. And, of course, WrestleMania 9 got brought up. WrestleMania 10 got brought up because he wrestles twice. And they kept saying Royal Rumble 94. And I was like, why do you guys keep saying Rumble 94? Like, what happens? And they go, it's the casket match with The Undertaker when he goes to heaven. I'm like, oh, my God. How did I forget that? Here's why. I went back and watched a month of Raws leading up to this. Owen Hart turns on this show. We have the advent of the Diesel spot in the Rumble. Diesel dominates this Royal Rumble. He doesn't win, but he dominates it. We have, what else is going on? We have, they're still building up to Lex and Yoko, but right now they're pivoting away. Yoko, Undertaker, Brett and Lex will have their thing in the Rumble. They co-win it. We also have Marty Jannetty and 1-2-3 Kid won the titles for a week and then dropped it back to the Quebecers at a house show. There is so much happening in this time frame, and who could forget the all-time great feud, Bam Bam Bigelow and Bastion Booger. All of this is happening during this show. So let's go ahead and get started. Go over to the WWE Network, WWE pay-per-view, go to 1994, Royal Rumble's where we're going. And we're going to start in 3, 2, 1, play. Here we go. Little cityscape of Providence. Wow, it looks beautiful, Frank. So let's get to know our guest this week. Travis, we're going to address the elephant in the room because anyone that can see you can see that you're doing your best. What's the guy's name from ECW?
Joe Gertner.
Joe, thank you. You're doing your best, Joe Gertner, with the neck brace. So how did you get here, and where are we at on the road to recovery?
Well, I am the quintessential stud muffin.
You are.
No, not even close. But yeah, it's an injury happened in late August, and I'm about a month away from getting it healed, so I get to wear this cool thing all the time. It's a broken C1, but it's healing.
Very
Everybody's
good.
had my back, and I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And Bharat, one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you on is you and I have been talking for most of this week. And one of the things I found out, and again, as you know, I've lived in the United States my entire life, and it's just kind of something you take for granted, is you told me this is around the time the WWF first penetrated the Indian market. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so this is such a popular topic now, especially in the last couple of years. What, you know, Great Khali was champion, Jinder Mahal was champion, supposedly to try to recapture that territory, so to speak. And you were right. But so here in '94, as you're watching this, how is this being received in India?
It was just insane because we didn't know anything about the history of wrestling or that it even existed. Because this is also it was in the early 90s that cable TV really started in India. It's interesting. The other day I was listening to Eric Bischoff on 83 Weeks. He was talking about how in the 1950s when he was growing up, not everybody had a television. You know, only some few houses did. And I was like, wait, that was the case in India in the early 1990s. So, you know, that's how far behind India was. And it just so happened that the early 90s cable TV came in. And with cable TV, we got exposure to American movies to an extent. Arnold Schwarzenegger became a big thing. Rambo became a big thing. And this is all happening in the early 90s. And then one day, like, you know, it happened around the same time for a lot of us, like school kids at that point. You're just changing the channels and you see like a guy with long hair, like, you know, looking very scary, which was The Undertaker. And this guy looked like, I don't know how you would describe him, Papa Shango, but he had a very Indian sounding name, Papa Shango. So we just assumed this is some take on, you know, Indian holistic exotic warfare. And then they're fighting each other in the ring. That's right, Karl. And my mind was blown. I was like, you know, I was 9 or so. And I remember we had this cousin who used to live with us. He said, oh no, this is something called freestyle wrestling. It's something new. They've just started in America. And we all thought, well, Americans are crazy anyway. I mean, they are getting attacked by aliens and like, you know, King Kong is just like, you know, climbing the Empire State Tower. This maybe is just a new thing that's coming up. And that was our real exposure to wrestling. And it's funny, you see Tatanka on your screen. And like, this is how like ignorant we were back then. We really, because they kept pumping, like, you know, pimping him as this Indian character, this native Indian character and all that. And he used to do this little jig, right? Like the little dance. Yeah. And we really thought, oh, that's taken from Bollywood. And he must be Indian. Like at Tatanka, that sounds like, you know, borderline. Maybe he's from the northeast part of India, I'm sure. And yeah, and there are like, you know, there are a lot of people in native or like indigenous people in India who wear war paint like that and stuff like that. So we were so out there. We used to have this ridiculous pop singer, Google him, called Apache Indian, who was very popular in the early 90s. And we just put 2 and 2 together. We just were so clueless, man. We just had no idea. Like I said, we thought this is just something new that the crazy Americans have started. But it resonated because it had drama. It had like that very scripted feel to it, in the sense, like, you know, there was violence. There was a lot of singing and dancing weirdly. There were like women who like, they were like, you know, link ups and hookups with women. So we were like, oh, this is like Bollywood. We can get down with that. There's a lot of drama. And that's really how wrestling started in India. And it grew to such an extent that within 2 years, I was seeing a video yesterday on YouTube, the WWF tour of India in 1996. It's just a 4 or 5 minute clip. It's ridiculous. Like, you know, you have all these wrestlers saying, I didn't know these people spoke English. And like, you know, or like, you know, stuff like, and Bret Hart was a huge deal in 1996. And the one thing we have in India is a lot of people. So like, you know, there were 40,000 people at every venue that they went in 1996, which by Indian standards is nothing. Like we would have 30,000 people in a local train. So I'll come when we come to the Royal Rumble part of it. I'll tell you how it was invented in India.
Okay. So 2 follow-up questions to that. Number 1, how disappointed were you when you found out Papa Shango was from Las Vegas and Tatanka's from North Carolina?
Can I have a follow-up on the Papa Shango after you answer that part of that question?
Right. No, but see, that's the advantage, because even the internet came so late to us, and this whole understanding of what was really happening, that we really thought this was all realish till pretty much the late 90s. I mean, I always tell people the first time most Indian men my age saw breasts were Sable's breasts. I'm sorry, but that's the first time we were exposed to any kind of scantily clad women, because back then everything was censored in India. So even when you would see Hollywood movies, whenever, to the extent that whenever there was a sex scene or anything with any innuendo, we used to just call it a scene. So we'd be like, oh man, this is a movie, it's got a scene in it. So which scene really meant there was some sex involved. But you would buy the movie, put it in the VCR, wait for the scene, but it never came. They would censor it out. And you also have to realize that we were getting all these shows 3 or 4 or 5 weeks later. So if Eric Bischoff thought he could ruin the WWF in India by giving away results, it had no impact on us, because we would see them a month later. So the Royal Rumble, this show would have come to us maybe in February or maybe early March. So we had no connect to what was happening. And then, yeah, like you said, it got interesting. The first Indian character or sorts was Tiger Ali Singh, which was kind of ridiculous.
I was just going to ask you about him.
It was just ridiculous. And even the great Kali and Jinder Mahal, I was telling Karl, I remember, it's so ridiculous that after all these years, the WWE hasn't understood that those Maharajas and those weird people like Great Kali don't exist in India. I mean, give me a customer care executive. My Indian heel would come from Bangalore. He would be the guy who messes up all the IT in the WWE, and nobody knows what's happening. And it turns out to be this Indian guy, and you just hear his voice saying, "Yes, sir, I am from Chicago, but I sound like this." It's like a classic Indian stereotype. Oh. That's a much better stereotype than showing us Maharajas who haven't existed till the English came to our shores 150 years ago. So we never accepted Jinder Mahal or all these guys as being Indian. But I will tell you this, when the great Kali beat the Undertaker, it was on all the news channels. And it's funny, right? We didn't know about Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair or those guys. For us, the first real exposure to the WWF was the Undertaker, who's still a big deal. Even now, when people just see me on the streets in India, one of the things they'll call me is the Undertaker, because of the long hair and just a scary look. Or if it's someone who's obese, he would, I tweeted yesterday, he would be called a Yokozuna. It's just weird. It's they've just entered Indian speech over the years. That's the contribution of the WWF in many ways. So Hulk Hogan to us was, yeah, I mean, he was we didn't even know about him, to be very honest. So this is the era of wrestling that we really resonated with us. And this whole Bam Bam Bigelow thing that we are seeing on right now, the whole fire, we kind of got that Indians are supposed to walk on fire, aren't they?
Yeah. Matt, what was your question about
Well,
Shango?
I was curious about pop culture and when it actually came to India contextually, because you talk about Schwarzenegger getting big, you talk about Rambo getting big. These are going to be major 80s, early 90s blockbusters that are getting produced in the U.S. But Shango is based on Baron Samedi from 1973 and Live and Let Die, which is going to be a Roger Moore James Bond film. I believe it would be his first Bond film, the first film after Connery. So I'm curious, timeline-wise, when that would have started penetrating India, if it ever did, and if and when that would have become sort of a, oh my goodness, this is based on something different than I thought it was.
Much later. I mean, stuff that's the thing. India discovered a lot of things that happened in the 70s and 80s, even with music. I mean, I was really into heavy metal, but heavy metal really started, metal from the early 80s and the late 70s really came into India towards the late 90s when the markets opened. There was no Coca-Cola in India till the markets opened in the early 90s or the mid 80s, because we only had our Indian soft drinks. This is, of course, before I was born, but because the markets were all like, they were kept very local. But once globalization started, like, luckily I was growing up at that era, so we were exposed to so much. But pop culture really came to India not through wrestling, but through Friends. Friends really broke the Indian market, because suddenly Indians were like, oh, and I was telling Karl, like, last time I was on this, I was like, the word closure became a big deal in India. Everybody wanted closure in their relationships in India after they watched that bloody Friends show. Like, yeah, it was just crazy. And that really was the first real show that everybody watched. And you also have to realize it's not an egalitarian society, right? So there are the really, really rich. There are the middle class, which is like a couple of billion people. And then a couple more billion people who have no access to nothing. Even now they don't. So wrestling really started out as a very middle class thing. So it was like for people who had just started being able, like, who could afford buying a TV, and color TV was just becoming a thing in the early 90s in India. And like I said, cable came in around 92, 93. So it was just the middle class which kind of got it. But it's funny that now if you go to India, the people who really follow wrestling are the lower class, because the middle class has moved on, right? Like, because we've got exposure to American sport or American movies or Netflix or all that. Now the lower class is still like clinging on to wrestling. And it's funny, a lot of lower class Indians still believe this is real, which is, I find it so cute. Like, I remember, like, even in the like the late 90s, early 2000s, walking into this little store in India, like I can't even explain how stores in India work unless you've been to India. There are these mom and pop little shanties, right? So I remember going to buy milk, and they had like a little television screen there, and everybody was talking about, do you really think this China is going to marry Eddie Guerrero? I am very sure. But like, China was married to someone, and for them, it's all real. It's just, I mean, wrestling is escapism, and which country needs escapism, than India? Because our life is very stressful, as you can imagine. There are just a lot of us living on very little. And, you think of, sorry to make it so serious and academic, but like, you think of what's happening now, there is no idea of social distancing or all that in India. It's not possible. So you can't just shut the economy forever and just say, you know what, like, we'll get back to our feet, because there is no social security. If you lose your job, you lose your job. The government cannot take care of you. There are just too many of us. So we're always looking for escape. I'm just going to stop saying that word. And wrestling just fit the bill, man. It just came at the right time for us young kids. And yeah, I mean, it was weird watching wrestling at home in an Indian household, because like, my mother was not used to seeing like semi-naked men on television, and she never got it. And I remember Lex Luger, when he was a narcissist, he would come to the ring. And I remember my mother and my aunt walking in like from somewhere, and I was watching Lex Luger, and he was like, kind of doing that with his specs. And my mother thought I was watching some bizarre porn or something. And I was just 8. So yeah, wrestling was banned for a long time. And we were so like, it's funny when you think about it, right? We had such less exposure. I remember asking my mother this very, very embarrassing question now when I think about it. I was like, Mom, I just heard this word on TV. What are breasts? And she was like, what the fuck is this kid talking about? And I remember she walking up to my father and saying, can we get rid of that bloody cable TV? This kid is really going to the dogs. And my father couldn't get rid of it, because if cable TV went, his cricket access went. So, so cricket, like, no Indian would ever cannot live without cricket. You cannot live without cricket for us. So it was cricket and Bollywood really at back then. Like, guys, like, it's very difficult to explain how, like, when I talk about stress, it's not stress in terms of, oh, like, will I lose my job, or is that job security, all that. It's just stressful from the point you wake up to the time you go to bed. Because when you go from point A to point B, there are really 100 ways you can die, because you're getting into like a really crowded train with thousands of people. You're hanging out of the train, or you're on a road with thousands of cars not following any rules. So it's like, you live on a day-to-day basis. So cricket and Bollywood were historically have been our big, like, ways to just chill out in a way. That's why they're so big. That's why the stars are so big. And then when wrestling came along, at least for a generation who are okay with watching naked men in like tights on TV, it just like, we just connected like that to it. Like, and some of us, of course, grew out of it. I stuck with it, and here I am all these years later.
I have one more follow-up question to that. But before that, guys, we just had a run-in.
Lauren.
Lauren Yaffe's here.
Yeah.
Orange dog.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, friends.
Hi, Lauren.
Hey,
How are you
what
this
is that,
evening?
you lucky bastard?
What?
I said, what are you eating? Because it looks phenomenal. I'm jealous.
Football food, babe. It's a hot dog.
Lucky.
It's football day.
Goodness. I thought you graduated from South Carolina.
Fun fact, did not graduate from South Carolina. I went to South Carolina, graduated somewhere else. But prior to that, I was an LSU fan. And LSU traditionally is better at football. So this morning, when I was getting dressed, I thought South Carolina against Florida or LSU against Vandy. I like these odds a little better.
By a lot.
By a lot.
Hmm.
How are you guys?
Good.
We're actually getting a culture lesson from Bharat. This is actually very interesting stuff.
Pretty much
No,
same,
really.
Lauren.
That, right?
It's been the Bharat show so far. We haven't said too much.
Taking it all in. Awesome.
So while Lauren's here, she can kind of take in this conversation. Bharat, my last follow-up question,
Yeah.
and we'll kind of move on from here, was, you mentioned this is really when the wrestling really started to penetrate the Indian market. So who were the guys in India during, like, who was, you mentioned The Undertaker.
Yeah.
Who else was just, because, you hear about the Hearts in Europe as they're on the screen right now. You
Yeah.
hear, so who were the guys in India when wrestling first broke through?
Look, it started with Bret Hart, and I'm not surprised when most of Conrad's co-hosts always talk about him being an international star. We really got it, right? He was like the goody two shoes, he looked good. He would give his shades to Indian or whatever kids he would come across. So Bret Hart was massive in India. Undertaker was just and they actually made a movie in 1996, which is how quickly it caught on. So something's caught on in India when Bollywood suddenly starts looking at it. And they made a movie in 1996 called Khiladiyon Ka Khiladi, which means the greatest of all players or something like that. That's the direct translation. So which had this very famous Indian actress from the 80s, who's by now pretty old. So she runs this illegal wrestling organization in the US. And so there's this Indian guy who goes to the US for some strange reason to kind of he's the hero, she's the villain, to stop her from doing that. And they had Crush and the Undertaker protecting her. They were the ones who were fighting in this illegal wrestling organization. But it wasn't the real Undertaker, of course. It was Brian Lee, the Underfaker, as he's called in some circles. So
Yes.
we didn't know that. But so the Undertaker was the character that really connected. Razor Ramon, I was Lauren and I loved Razor Ramon, of course. So he was the one that I got attracted to. And maybe the whole hair thing comes from wrestling for me. I started growing it when I was 15, 16. But you just got so used to seeing these. I never got this whole wet hair business because Lauren and I can tell you, we don't do you get it, Lauren? Leaving your hair wet for this long? I've never understood it.
No.
I watched it 2 days back. Sorry, guys. I said I won't talk about hair, but I have to. And yesterday I went out for a walk and there was rainwater all around. Rainwater really ruins your hair. So I had to wash it again and dry it. I don't know why. Anyway, I digress. So Bret Hart, The Undertaker, Yokozuna was massive, man. We just because of his size, it was easy to relate. I'm not saying we have a lot of obese people in India. We actually do. But just the character, he was supposed to be from Asia, kind of. So that was the closest we got to having anyone from our part of the world, maybe. Tatanka was huge. Like I said, if you speak to a lot of Indian kids who grew up in 94, 95, Tatanka will be in their top 3. I don't know what it was about Tatanka. I always I never get why Conrad always takes spot shots at him. I, in fact, still follow Tatanka on Instagram. This is how lame it is. Because I don't know, it's a part of my childhood. And he keeps posting pictures or videos of him when he was younger. Who else? I think Macho Man was big. Yeah, I mean, with the shades and all that. In fact, there are some Indian cricketers who grew up in that era, and I'm not kidding, who were huge wrestling fans. I mean, by now, they're retired now. So they actually would try pulling off those shades while playing cricket, strangely. It was quite something. So once you have cricket and Bollywood on board, wrestling was always going to survive. even if it was never going to become like a mass thing. Like it was never like the US where you had like this big market where a lot of people went and watched wrestling. It was always going to be niche in a strange way. But like I said earlier, it started with the middle class. Now it's the lower class. And at some point in life, you guys should go check out. Send you a link. So there's this bunch of slum kids in Bombay, like in the outskirts of Bombay, who run like their own WrestleMania thing. So it's amazing. It's just like a made up little ring in their backyard. And these are slum kids. They have really like, they live hand to mouth. But they set up their own ring and they pretend to be wrestlers. And they have like, so they track it with the whole commentary. So you'll hear Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler like on commentary in the background. And they just record themselves pulling off these wrestling moves with pillows. And it's just amazing. Like they're really, really popular. I don't know what they're called. I'll send you a link. So yeah, it's just that I think Indians still relate more to the wrestlers of that era more than the John Cena's or like, you know, the modern day stars. It's more those guys.
So who's your guy around this time?
Razor Ramon, like without a doubt. I was like, you know, all for the I mean, I remember walking up in school and saying like better than you, Chico, to a teacher and getting into trouble because of that. Like, yeah. So because it was so cool to do that, right? Like, you know, with the toothpick, there were so many Indian kids walking around with toothpicks, some even like swallowing it and getting into trouble, of course. But like, yeah. And like, you know, we started getting all these t-shirts, man, like with like, you know, very poorly made t-shirts where like you'd have like stickers of various wrestlers. Of course, you couldn't wear it to school, but whenever it was your birthday, you could wear like you were allowed not to wear your school uniform, and invariably like a kid, you would see at least one kid every day wearing like a wrestling. I can still picture. So there was Bret Hart here, there was Razor Ramon, there was a little Macho Man here. It was the same t-shirt. You got it everywhere in all these little shady shops. And yeah, for me, Razor Ramon was my man. So I actually shifted to WCW when randomly one day I was watching TNT. I was watching Cartoon Network, which in India at 9 p.m. would turn to TNT, and you would see all these old American movies, Fred Astaire and like Dancing in the Rain and all that happening. And then that's when we would switch it off like very quickly. But one day we just let the TV run for a while, and I saw Scott Hall. And I was like, shit, what is this? Like there is something apart from WWE. And my brother and I just were like hooked on. We were the only kids in India who watched the WCW, by the way. Like we'll come to that if there is time. I think everybody else should also go to talk. If you let me go, TJ, this will go on forever. So yeah, we should watch some wrestling as well.
There would definitely be some time, but I want to throw it to our other kind of our guests here, and then we'll open it up for everyone after that. Now the kind of the guest introductions are done. We'll start with Travis, and then Mike, you can jump in. Travis, here in '94, who is your guy here in '94?
Well, not Bret Hart, since Lauren joined us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, Lauren, Frank and I are about to have a fight over that, so stay tuned for that.
Perfect.
Well, number one for all time is probably the Macho Man. And he happens to be here. They haven't run him off completely yet.
Not yet.
But Scott Hall's pretty hard to beat in any incarnation. So I got to say probably Macho Man on this one.
Okay, Mike Kolb, my Hoosier brethren. Who do you got here in '94?
Oh man, back in '94, I loved The Undertaker back in 1994. I was a Bret Hart fan to an extent. That love faded really quickly in the following years, but The Undertaker was my guy for sure.
Okay, so here I was. If you've watched this show or any interaction with me, you know that I was weird when it came to my fan. I always liked the heels. I didn't like the baby. So I was never a Hogan guy. I was never a Warrior guy. I was never, Bret Hart, I defend him now just from a wrestling standpoint. I know he's a miserable old bastard now in his old age, but I liked his work. But here in '94, and this is going to sound crazy to some people, and that's fine. My two guys here in '94 would have been Owen Hart and Yokozuna. I know. Carl Mandick. Carl Mandick. '94 here. Who you got? Is Carl here?
Carl's on mute.
All right, Lauren.
He's muted.
I double muted myself. I double muted.
Secret double secret probation.
So 94. Why I felt so passionate about the. I was really selling you guys hard on the AWA and the team challenge stuff and all that, but now that I go through it, I was like, I voted for Yoko right away because it's my first wrestling memory. The shock and awe of seeing him in the ring was like, what is this? And the immediate match following it, it was a Superstars, was Doink and somebody else. And I'm like, again, so right around this time leading up, again, I should say that my first wrestling memory is July 2nd, or was it July 4th, 1993 on the USS Intrepid with Yoko and Lex.
Yeah, it was the 4th.
It was the 4th, okay. Johnny Polo, by the way, looking phenomenal here. He's not Diesel. He's not jacked enough to be Diesel, but he is going to go out and party with Shane McMahon directly after this is over. So again, Yoko holds a special spot, and it was the first time I saw it was Macho Man and Shawn Michaels, because even though this is late Macho Man, you guys are like, what are you talking about? He's going into his worst WrestleMania match ever. Maybe one of the worst WrestleMania matches to take place in history, because the rules weren't really that well spelled out, with Crush at 10 in the midst of the ladder match and the Bret and 5-star match. So for sure, when he had the blood packet, when he gets now the Raws leading up to this Royal Rumble, had Crush and Macho Man started feuding yet?
Yes.
Did the blood thing happen?
Yes. They were actually feuding, I want to say, before SummerSlam. They just hadn't actually met yet in the ring.
Gotcha. I've got a double question here. I am still the advocate, and I am Kevlar Karl for Frank when it comes to HBK, for the reigning, defending, kind of de facto WHW trivia champion, Frank Bruno. Frank, today's trivia question is the following.
Oh, geez.
It is called Before and After Relationships. And you have 3 clues. Former WWE superstar, bestie of HBK, and a second or possibly third date with myself. Before and after relationships. Trivia question.
When you said bestie of Shawn Michaels, I immediately went to Triple H, but why are you trying to date Triple H?
Well, the correct answer that we were looking for in this one is No Way Jose Lothario Mandic. That is what we were looking for. As you can see, those all tie together. I usually never get a second or third date, and I wanted to give some Shawn Michaels love. And then question to Bharat. Bharat, if your mom and grandma walked in, and let's replace that scenario, instead of the narcissist Lex Luger, let's say it's Luna Vachon, who we saw earlier, who, if we had to explain to them, would be like, yeah, Dog the Bounty Hunter and Joe Exotic had a daughter, and it's not Maurice Vachon's, no relation to that family. A, seriously, what would their reaction be? And 2, would you be a wrestling fan if your dad had not fought for the sports package? Could you have found a friend's house to watch it at, and would you be sitting with us here today?
I'll answer the second question first. No, I wouldn't have, because it's like we had cable TV, but not every household had access to cable TV. It was pretty expensive back then. So we had it because cricket was massive in our house, and now cricket pays my bills, so which is good. But I don't think so. I don't think I would have been here if not for my dad's love for cricket. And if my mother and grandmom had seen Luna Vachon, oh my God, Yeah, I and the TV might have left home together. Yeah, I might have had to, we both might have had to like find a house for ourselves. Like, yeah, no way. Yeah, and it's very possible that, like, even the whole bikini matches or whatever, we got access to them only on the internet. Like, they never showed women scantily dressed. I'll tell you, the only thing they happened to show was when China, there was that whole DX split thing, like when they all pretended they were breaking up and China pulled her pants down. Sorry, Lauren. And that's really, that's the first time I think they, maybe the Indians, whoever was in charge of censoring it, like didn't know what was going to happen. Maybe they did not know what a thong was, man. We had no idea what a thong was before FTV or fashion TV came into India. Seriously. So, yeah.
So, and then to follow up on that, while they are completely different cultures and Americans are, I don't want to, how do I put this sensitively? Oftentimes you're lumped into, the Middle East. You live in the middle, you live in India, you live in the United Arab, Emirates. So when they ran Saudi Arabia, and how big of a deal was it culturally, or can you even like speak to it? This taking place last year when they played the promo of Sasha Banks, I think a couple of their female superstars, and they were in their normal gear, but they were not in what would be considered.
Yeah.
There was like complete like a gasp apparently that took place within there, and is that a gasp of, oh my gosh, this is awesome, or oh my gosh, outrage, or shock, or is there? What do you think it is? And can you go between the two cultures of what we're talking about?
Very much so, but like, so India is definitely not as rigid with its rules as the Saudi Arabia or the Middle East, because they are more Islamic countries. So, I mean, without getting into the whole religion bit of it, we are a democracy. We're pretty like open to, like, hey, the Kama Sutra came from India, man. So like, so we were all about sex at some point. In fact, I mean, if I can digress a little, our holy book, the Bhagavad Gita, says a man needs one piece of clothing and a woman needs two pieces of clothing. You white folk came and ruined it for us, seriously, by teaching us all about jackets and suits and covering up. Seriously, that was because for our climate, that's all we needed. Like, yeah. And we weren't covering ourselves up with leaves, by the way, and like, or with snakes or exotic things like that. It was just like normal clothes. But then India was always like slightly more open. So when you speak about what happened in Saudi Arabia, yeah, I'm sure for them it was like freedom. Like in Iran, women couldn't drive till what, 2 years ago or so, or 3 years ago. So that's a really different world. Like you can't even, I can't relate to that kind of rigidity or like those kind of rules there, like that exist in the Middle East. So for us, it wasn't so much, it's more about, there's no law against it. Like women can dress whichever way they want to in India. It's just that they're not safe in some parts of India because like sexual violence is very, very high in the northern part of the country. Thankfully, I didn't grow up there. And B, it's just a very, very conservative society. Like, women are supposed to dress up in a certain way, not by law, not like in the Middle East. So like, I always used to joke about it. Like, it's only now in the last 10 years that Indian women even wear like bikinis to the beach, because historically it was just like a loose t-shirt and like tights that ran up to your calves. That was like beach gear. But it's more to do with being a conservative society, rather than being ruled by an iron fist. And also it's not safe. Like, you don't want to be a woman, unfortunate as it is. You should be allowed to dress the way you want to. So in big cities like Bombay, like my wife could go anywhere, party till 4 a.m., come back on her own. And I was like, she was safe. But she couldn't pull that off in New Delhi, which is our capital. Like, she would be in some trouble. So it's just a cultural thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one thing I took away, and I'll shut up and move on. The one thing I took away, and I'll never forget it, is when you told the story of soaps, and Rajiv was jumping in on it when we were on my Chat Pack Live. And Lauren, I think you can chime in on this, but there would be a rose. Or it would be a rose instead of a kiss.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The rose. And it was like the one thing, I know you told so many great stories, but I'm just saying in general, I don't know why that stuck with me so much, that I was like, Wow, so they didn't even show a kiss on TV. So
No,
it
no,
would,
no, no.
it would be like
Oh,
like almost like a star wipe as we would know it today. Like
yeah,
it would be like
yeah. So
a blooming rose. Just,
it,
and I
it,
was
it
so
was
blown away by that.
it was amazing. Yeah, for you guys, if you haven't watched Bollywood movies from the 80s and 90s, so whenever like they would show a man and a woman kissing, they would show them like their lips go that close, and then the camera would pan to two flowers kind of like, merging into each other very, very creepily, which actually looked creepier than a man and a woman just kissing. But it was a big taboo. Like, yeah, that really changed maybe only 10 years ago. And now everybody's kissing everyone on TV in India, which is great. Like, yeah.
I could listen to this.
Real quick. So does India have porn now?
It's still illegal to stream porn in India, but I think if you look at the numbers, more people in India watch porn than anyone else anywhere in the world. And it's like, and the funny thing is, and I'm so sorry that I'm saying this with Lauren here, for a lot of Indian men, right? And I'm sorry to say this, who grew up in the 90s and the 2000s, it's getting better now. For them, a white woman they just saw white women in porn. Like, I'm not kidding. It was like that. I remember, like, so as a cricket writer, like, I travel around the world. I remember this very senior journalist who was my colleague in India. He was about to come on his first tour outside India to Australia. And we went out for a drink before he left. And he like, we're just having a drink. And he tells me, so dude, tell me, so in Australia, how does it work? So you just walk up to her and she just agrees? And this is like a married man with 2 kids. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? No, these white women, they're pretty easy, right? Like, you just walk up and talk to them and they're like, I said, dude, you're not walking onto a porno set. Even there, it does not work like that. So if you do go in with that mindset, like, you'll end up in prison and nowhere else. So I had to really sit him down and tell him, and even about like, just going to a strip bar, it's not a brothel. You need to know what you're talking about. So it's just, it's amazing like how far India has come so quickly thanks to the internet. But yeah, porn is huge in India, man. Like, Indian porn. So India always had, like, with Bollywood, you had like the high class cinema, like the ones where a lot of money is spent. But we've always had B grade, C grade, D grade cinema, which is basically which is late night cinema, as they call it there, which has a lot of semi-nudity, and which has always existed. It's just that now it's out there, and we have amazing internet speed. So yeah, I mean, I'll let you in on a little secret. In most sporting press boxes around the world, and this is not just limited to cricket, whether it's your NFL or whatever, we get the best Wi-Fi possible, right? Because we have to do our work. A lot of porn gets downloaded in sporting press boxes around the world. Let me tell you that much. Unfortunately, it does.
Well, all right.
Okay.
Well, alrighty.
So, Lauren, were you even watching wrestling in 1994?
Watching, yes. Aware, no. I turned 4 in 1994, the back half of it. So there you go. I do know that The Undertaker gave me nightmares from the very first time I saw him on screen ever. And Razor Ramon was cute.
He was.
All right, so I'm going to save Frank Bruno for last because we know it's about to happen. So Henry, let's do Henry, and then we'll do Matt, and then me and Frank are going to have it out. So Henry, you first. 1994. Who's your guy here?
That's such a hard question. I probably at this stage would have to go, and it's close, with The Undertaker.
Okay.
Mostly because I thought then, and I still think now, the Undertaker gimmick is really, really cool. I would put him on my Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, honestly.
So you're the second or third person that said that. Would it be completely unreasonable here to say that the Undertaker, and mind you, he's only been here 4 years, barely, almost, pretty more or less 3. Is it fair to say that here in January '94, that Undertaker is probably the star in the company?
I would say that that's fair, or at least at the very least, an argument can be made for that.
Okay.
I think he was putting asses in seats for sure.
Yeah. Matt, who you got here in '94 as we watch the epic Owen Hart heel turn right now.
He's about to kick his leg out from his leg.
Here he did, I think.
Oh, he did. He's very shellfish.
Shellfish. Which, by the way, I just bought another Owen Hart shirt. Thank you, ProWrestlingTees.com.
Got a ton of box of gimmick stuff in the mail today. Just not on yet. Not being worn quite yet.
Did we talk about how loose these ropes are and how tight this
yeah,
is?
Owen was just kicking the hell out of them ropes.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, whenever you're ready, you can tell us who your guy was in '94.
Macho Man was still my guy at this point.
Why do you sound like you're talking into a soup can?
I do?
Yeah.
Is it bad?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to restart. I'm having all kinds of connection problems. The network dropped. I'll be right back.
You kids and your tech issues. All right, Frank.
Yoy.
We're down to me and you. So this is the third week now. You and I have had the Brett, and here's the thing: I'm not even pro Brett. I'm just anti Sean.
Oh, that's even worse.
Because actually no, we didn't. Owen is about to kick his leg out from his leg.
Yeah, I was saying. Well, yeah, hey, where are we time code wise, everybody?
So let's go ahead. 41, 51, 52, 53, 54. So I'm of firm belief. Shawn Michaels. Now again, I've also made this clarification, Frank and Karl. 02 Shawn on, I'm down. Count me in. 95 through 97, he's not worth the trouble, in my opinion. And here's my argument, and I know I'm going to win this. I've thought it out all week. Name me one star when Shawn Michaels was WWF champion that Shawn made. Name me one.
Diesel?
Stop it. This show right here made Diesel.
For what? I'm gonna go with this. Here, I'll take bullet one. I'm not Frank. I'm gonna take this so that you can come up with others because of this, and we can get into this. Matt, if I'm doing this wrong in the court of law, I know bird law, insect law.
1 second. Test.
It sounds about the same.
About the same, but it's still pretty good.
It's not terrible, but.
Here's what Shawn did. Shawn opened the door. If it wasn't for there being a Ric Flair, okay, there would be no Shawn Michaels. He was the first to come out and call himself and embrace being a boy toy. So he drew this line. While we all want to say the most androgynous characters, Goldust, what HBK really did was open up the door for the likes today to, this is a bad example just because of what he's going through, but there would be no Velveteen Dream. That character would not have existed in the first place if it wasn't for Shawn Michaels. So I don't think it's who he made and where business is at because of the steroid trial. I think you have to look at, and there's no Seth Rollins. There's no, the style of which he wrestled and how he did it, even smaller than Brett, opened up a way and a different look for all of us and gave us the perfect foil for Austin to win it. So I don't think it's what he did. And if he had not jumped up with his stuffed bicycle shorts, are we talking about the Attitude Era? Most likely. But under what context are we? So with me, the Shawn Michaels argument is so much larger than what is in the ring. It's that early Shawn, braggadocious, even heelish. I mean, he's about to have that ladder match, and we all know we're going to remember that, and that's going to stick with all of us forever. But it was the flamboyance and that gorgeous George, almost modern day. That's why I fight for Shawn.
Okay, so
don't you think? But don't you think? Like, think about it. A lot of people have said, you know, Shawn Michaels went into the ring that night and had a match with a ladder. I mean, look,
the only person I've
TJ,
ever heard say that is Flair. He's the only person I've ever heard say that.
But one of the greatest wrestlers of all time said that.
Flair has a hard-on for the NWO.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I can't, like, as we're talking, I was thinking about all the opponents that Shawn had in his single run, and I'm that much of a mark for Michaels that I can remember. Like, I mean, he had those really good matches with Owen, but Owen's a fantastic worker too. I mean, he had his matches with Razor. Razor's a fantastic worker too. I mean, they always put him with really good workers. And I mean, he had some great matches with Diesel. He had some great matches with God. I mean, maybe he made Sid.
Yeah, I was just saying, I might be willing to give you Sid.
Because his matches at Survivor Series '96 and Royal Rumble '97 were fantastic. The thing about Michaels for me is, and to answer your question in '94, who was I for? Yes, I was for Shawn Michaels, but at this stage, at this show, I still really liked Bret too. Again, I would always lean toward Michaels, but Bret, like this feud, everything here. Mike, bring it, brother.
His theme music.
I just gotta say, you know, I totally get where you're coming from on this one, TJ. But at the same point in time, is it really the fault of Shawn Michaels for not making somebody else a star, or is it really the fault of creative and booking by not giving him the opportunity to be with those guys to make them a star?
It is his fault because he only wanted to work with his friends.
Okay, wait a minute.
I've only asked half my question, guys, and we're already having this argument.
But off of Mike's point, okay, so let's look at the spectrum of guys that he did work with. If you go back to Mind Games and you can go tit for tat with Mick Foley, and at the same time work with, you know, everybody just celebrates and just puts on a pedestal Kurt Angle for wrestling with a broken freaking neck. Yeah, Shawn Michaels did too. Sure, was he on a lot of drugs and a lot of alcohol and probably addicted to deal with backstage? Yeah, but his back was broken when he still went through WrestleMania 14. He's got hit in the head with a AA battery. I would want none of that. Like, I would be in a bad mood too. And he's volatile because he's under so much, his substance issues in his backstage of the pulling of hair and going through walls and sleeping with Sonny, that I think oftentimes overwrites the narrative of what we did and didn't see in the ring. Now, I'm the opposite of you, TJ. I actually hated Bret. I shouldn't say that. I love Shawn so much, but I really, really hated Bret. Like, there was something about it. Like, so it is funny that you said that, because I didn't even think about it. I'm like, I actually hated him just as much, not as much as I love Shawn. There's like, it's him and Hogan for me, I know, and Punk. And that's it. Yeah, I mean, like, if I had to make three, because of what they meant in my life.
Okay, so before we go any farther, Lauren, everyone say goodnight to Lauren.
Hey, Lauren.
Night, Lauren.
Night, Lauren.
Night, Lauren.
Thanks for dropping in.
You're missing Macho.
The first lady of ad-free shows.
There was Razor.
Football anyway.
This time the cheese ball.
Oh, by the way, I love this light blue on him. This
Agreed.
Or teal.
Great look.
So, Henry, you had a point. And again, I've only asked half my question, and you guys are already this defensive. So I can't wait to break the bomb here in a minute. So, Henry, go ahead.
Honestly, TJ, I kind of want to hear you ask the rest of your question before I counterpoint.
All right. Well, Frank, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to tell you is you did ask, was he worth dealing with the things that he did? Look, I've read his book a few times, and quite frankly, if I was Vince McMahon, I wouldn't have put up with it. And I don't think Vince McMahon would put up with it today.
No.
But
not a chance.
Back then, you're talking about 94, 95, 96 when he was getting big. The company was on its ass, and he was selling tickets. Him and The Undertaker were drawing fans in, or him and Bret being on the card. But what about if Bret wasn't on the card, or Taker? I mean, even after the show we're watching today, Taker's not in the picture for, 6 months, 7 months. So, I mean, Shawn Michaels was putting asses in seats at that point in time. So you can't let your biggest star go.
For that point, about Sean putting asses in seats, allow me to quote Blue Meanie doing his Raven impression.
But okay, Frank, my question to you is then, why did Vince put up with it? Because if there were other guys that could have done a better job, why did he put up with it?
That's a fair point, because there wasn't too many other guys.
That's what I'm saying. Like the talent, like especially when he was champion. I mean, who was there? Well, who was? I mean, everyone was leaving left and right for WCW. Who was there for him to work with? I mean, I've said this a million times. His veto of Vader being champions, like Vader should have been in the Sid spot. That pisses me off. I think Vader would have been a phenomenal WWF champion, and Shawn Michaels pulling his like. I've never agreed with the whole politicking of wrestling that goes on.
Right.
It's ridiculously stupid. But I think Bharat wanted to get on.
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Let's sort of Bharat, because he's got a question about all of this.
Yeah. No. I was just wondering, could it just be, TJ, that Sean was the? You just look at the guys on this card. Most of them are like ugly as shit, except Razor Ramon, of course. Was it just because he was the only good-looking guy in that roster, and Vince McMahon wanted to move away from it being a kiddie product for whom he had the Bret Harts and the Yokozunas and all that?
There certainly is an argument for that, but I've said before, I can't argue that Shawn Michaels is one of the greatest ever. Like, again, Flair is one. I put Michaels two. I don't doubt that at all. I don't argue it whatsoever. My point is, from 95 to 97, I think still he was overrated, and he wasn't worth the trouble. That's Frank and I's bone of contention. And again, I still have half a question. I can't wait. But
No, I actually agree with you, TJ. I think he was overrated. What I meant was he just was in the right place at the right time.
Sure.
And he didn't have enough competition for him to just. And Vince McMahon had to put up with him, like you guys said correctly, because you had no one else you could make your ultimate heel, who the women love more than anything else.
I think there's also something to this about there's a lot of revisionist history because of the second run. The second run has become somewhat corrective of the first run.
Yeah.
You know, I got to chime in on this, guys, and sorry for being a diva and waltzing a late, but...
Oh, there's Phil. Hey, Phil. Hi.
The biggest star of the show, you know, he's going to walk. I'm doing a Shawn Michaels here. I'll show up whenever the hell I want to show up. I'll work how I work, and I'll leave when I want to leave. There we go. See, I did that. I was late intentionally to prove TJ's point.
Sure.
I'm the Shawn Michaels of the
team. We planned that.
Yeah. It took forever. So 95 to 97, looking back on this in my mind, thinking about, you know, younger teenage me, when Shawn Michaels beat Bret Hart for the title, all I could think was, oh, that's cool. Shawn Michaels is the champion. When's Bret going to get it back? Because I was a Bret Hart mark when I was a kid, you know. WrestleMania 10, I still have like the most vivid memories of Bret Hart beating Yokozuna at 10, and I was running around the house doing lap screaming. I was so excited. And this Royal Rumble with Bret, I'm like, yeah, Bret's going to come back and he's going to win. And Luger went over with him. I'm like, ah. But my point is that Bret Hart was established. Shawn Michaels, he was the experiment, you know. All I could think was, all right, we're going to go with Shawn for a little while just to kind of, you know, add some chocolate milk to the vanilla. You do awesome chocolate to the vanilla milk. What vanilla milk? Add some chocolate flavoring to the milk. You know, kind of flavor it up a little bit. But we're going to go back to that standard eventually. But you know, then there's Shawn Michaels with the politicking and his buddies and you know all the other stuff. I actually happen to agree with you and Frank about. You know, 95 to 97, Shawn Michaels was, as a human being, garbage. As an in-ring performer, right there, 1A, 1B with Bret Hart as far as WWF goes. But in my mind, it was always still, when's Bret taking the flag back? Where's Bret at? Where's world champion Bret Hart where I need him?
Okay. Let's go off this. Before even Vince put up with all of it, before Vince even allowed his antics to not get in the way, but play part of the story. And TJ, I don't even know Shawn Michaels' second run other than Flair and the two matches with Undertaker and Elimination Chamber. That's about it. That's literally about it.
He made a lot of stars in his second run, whereas his first run he made none.
Okay, well, but here's the interesting thing. Let's really think about this. Who did the politicking? Because it wasn't Vince, because he had to be convinced time and time and time again by Bruce and Pat, as the story goes, if we want to believe that narrative on Something to Wrestle, that it was told, hey, let's turn Shawn. Hey, let's turn Shawn. Hey, let's turn. Just almost a broken record to where one day he's like, damn it, pal. How did I know we didn't have a baby face on our hands? So really, it wasn't Shawn pushing to do that. I honestly think Shawn was out there having the caliber of matches to have the caliber of matches. Now, when you get into the later half of that, with money and power comes greed, comes excess, comes all these other things, and comes the politicking, which, no, I don't agree with the Vader thing. But it says something to me when you have two guys fighting for you on the outside without going to them constantly or going to Vince, push me, push me, push me. I can carry it. I can carry it. He's not doing that. He's got two guys fighting this battle here. So I do find it interesting that he, even before he even had to try to politic, he had two of the biggest names ever already on his side.
Okay, so Mike Kolb has a very interesting, if I can quote Will Ferrell on the Dan Patrick Show, stat of the day, bop, bop. Go ahead, Mike, what do you got for us?
So, fun fact, Shawn had 26 total matches, televised matches, as champ between winning the title WrestleMania 12 to the moment he lost his smile. And the two people he worked with the most was Goldust and the British Bulldog at 6 matches apiece. He actually had a month span where he only wrestled the Bulldog between King of the Ring and then In Your House, Beware of Dog, or however you want to flip that. So I thought that was quite interesting. And then some of the other guys he worked with, looking at my lovely website, I'll give him props, profightdb.com. Some of his other opponents included Leif Cassidy, Salvatore Sincere, Justin Bradshaw, and Marty Jannetty.
Wow.
And well, Jannetty put nobody over. I think he put one person under.
He did. So Shawn, when it comes, I mean, Shawn and Bulldog had something. I mean, there's obviously everyone knows that. And Goldust would do business with anyone. Like, Goldust is just one of those guys. He could work with anybody. Now, let's go to the second half of my question. My first half of the point, Shawn Michaels made no stars while he was champion. Here's the second part. How many careers did he ruin in those 3 years?
Bulldog,
Owen Hart, Vader, Bret Hart.
How did he ruin Owens? I'll give you Vader, but how did he ruin Owens?
There was, I can't remember what show it was on. It had to be something to wrestle. Had to have been. That after the screw job, you know, Bulldog went over with Bret, Neidhart went over with Bret,
Yeah.
and they essentially let him go. But Vince really wanted Owen to stay, and actually Bret wanted Owen to stay. To kind of
that.
To separate Owen from Bret officially for good, as far as being in the shadow. And the supposed plan was, and I know Bruce didn't say this part. I heard it somewhere else. I just don't remember where. Maybe Conrad brought it up. But the supposed plan was Owen was going to come back in either December or January, like he did, be the ball of fire to get his brother's revenge, break out as a star, and then feud with Shawn and Hunter first and then Shawn to go after the WWF title. If you remember correctly, he never beat Hunter.
Razor's
So-
Edge.
Yeah, I do remember that, yeah.
So essentially, the rumor is when that idea was pitched and they're like, hey, we're going to go with Owen here for a while, Shawn kiboshed it.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah, there's the asshole right
Yep.
there. But Shawn kiboshed it and stopped Owen dead in his tracks.
Imagine Owen getting this moment, finally winning that WWF title.
And Shawn's like, no, I'm good.
See,
Wait, where is this title change taking place at? Royal Rumble?
Well, this was a long-term plan. Shawn was not hurt yet.
Okay, so Owen's not touching Shawn. If it's long-term, it doesn't matter because Shawn's losing to Stone Cold at WrestleMania.
Right. So my
Doesn't
guess,
mean-
my guess would have been, well, I honestly believe that. I mean, it was Steve's time at WrestleMania 14.
Oh God, yeah.
But I honestly believe it was probably supposed to be Owen and Hunter. And I don't remember if it was. I can't recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, it was European Championship.
Yeah, but
Mm.
my guess would have maybe not a WWF title run, but to get one over on Shawn. You know what I mean? And it just obviously Shawn got hurt, and there actually Jim Cornette even questions that Shawn was hurt. He just thinks that maybe he didn't want to put Owen over, but which I don't believe that, but that's Cornette's theory.
All right, I'm going to debunk. I'm Owen. I'm out on British Bulldog. Was again, we heard this via the podcast, or just Google it right now. British Bulldog was smoking meth and doing all sorts of drugs with Jim Neidhart leading up to SummerSlam, which Brett wrote out and carried him through. So if that moment doesn't happen, if Brett is not the professional, this is where I'm giving Brett props, there's no career to ruin, because if British Bulldog doesn't have that moment, he is nowhere near. He's basically Jim Neidhart.
Oh, I don't put Bulldog on Shawn. I don't put Bulldog on Shawn.
Okay. Vader, I will agree with, and I can't think of anybody. I really can't think of anybody else. I mean,
the Vader thing.
That one is
that
wrong.
Really bugs me. That really. I mean, again, I think I made a comment maybe on your show, Karl, where it was like, wasn't it called "In Your House"? It's Vader time, and he wasn't even on the show.
He's on that Boy Meets World episode. He was on the ice cream bars. They had T-shirts. They had money put into him. So that was wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, that was wrong. I don't know why he did.
I mean, the Owen thing, I never heard that before, quite frankly. And look, I go back and look at the in-ring work. I mean, I thought Shawn's in-ring work was superior beyond anything else.
No question.
And again, having read his book, having read Brett's, having done as much research and listening on any topic when it comes to the Montreal Screwjob, quite frankly, had I had to deal with Shawn Michaels back then, I don't know that I ever would have been his fan.
Sure.
But for this show we're talking about, it was January 1994. I was 13 years old. I mean, I didn't know anything. I mean, hindsight being what it is, had I known, I probably would have been a lot different. So,
let me be completely transparent here too, because I mean, I know this is the third week in a row I've shit on Shawn Michaels, and I get it.
It's okay. It's your opinion. I don't. You say shit on him. It's okay.
Well, again, from 02 on, and actually even before 95, I'm on board all day. It's just that 3-year window when he was the guy that I just can't. That's why I can't overcome it. But I think this is part of my problem. I actually discussed it during the show. I was I would say Owen's my second guy behind Mick on my all-time list. And you guys all know how much I love Mick Foley. Like in a borderline uncomfortable amount. Owen Hart is number 2. And you have to remember, when I heard Bruce, or not, actually it wasn't Bruce. I think Conrad brought it up, and I think Cornette's even mentioned it, about Shawn, K-Bosh, and Owens' rocket ship in 98. Me being an Owen guy, you could tell when Owen re-debuted with the goatee, the flannel shirt, like he looked like a badass. Like shit was going to go on with Owen. What happened 6 months after WrestleMania 14?
Do we need to track this?
I'm sorry, TJ. This Paul Bear Undertaker promo is really good.
Oh, you guys are already at Paul Bear. Oh yeah. I was saying, yeah.
Missing all good stuff.
I'm at I'm at 104, 55, 56, 57,
I'm sorry,
105.
I'm sorry, TJ.
You're 1 second behind me.
Okay.
I'm sorry, TJ.
No, you're fine.
Almost good.
Okay. There he is.
We don't have a way to track this. I
Yes,
found
we
out
do.
the hard way.
Do you want me to? I
we do.
had my headphones in.
All right, let's do it. Let's track it.
Well, 105.10 11. Are we good?
That you'll never forget.
I'm about a
And
second
when my
behind that.
Undertaker slams the door on your new 1994 vehicle, and you ride into the darkness, or you won't hear any exterior noise at all.
The only thing you will hear, Yokozuna, is the hounds of hell baying for your soul.
Yoko sweating out.
I know.
It's time for your journey.
Awesome.
It's time for your journey into the dark side.
I miss Paul Bearer.
I know, I miss it too.
Oh, yes, you may be deathly afraid. Tonight, Yokozuna, my
With
Undertaker
the carriage and everything, I love it.
Classic.
casket with your behemoth carcass and the deterioration process. Oh, it will soon
That's good shit.
begin. Are you afraid, Yokozuna? Are you afraid? Oh!
I can't look at Paul Bearer anymore and not hear Bruce Pritchard say Paul Bearer diddled his Undertaker's mama.
Yeah.
Double wide, double deep.
Have you heard the entire beginning to end Bruce Pritchard story of Kane?
Yes.
That story
Yeah.
had me in tears. Bruce Pritchard can bullshit any way, in any way, shape, or form, in any direction. I don't think there's anything he could not bullshit his way out of,
That's
except
why-
for being fired by Vince McMahon.
That's why you either hate Bruce or you love him, and we all love him, of course. But to finish my point with Sean and Owen.
TJ.
Can we track Cornette?
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we track him?
Double bang!
Double cheese, double onions.
When you gotta win, you gotta stuff your opponent some kind of big box. Now let me explain something. I watched that contract carefully, and there was no fine print in the one that I signed. It was added afterwards. There's people trying to create trouble between me and the master, Mr. Fuji.
Mr. Fuji has just given Yokozuna orders to. What's he gonna do? Squash the casket?
Squash the casket.
I love how he says like he's surprised. You're gonna squash the
And
casket.
here comes a surprise. Oh my God! Undertaker was in there. Who would have saw that coming?
Like Yoko was gonna lay in it and not squash it. Like I just love that he said, "You're gonna do that? You're gonna deface public property?"
With the Ico Pro sign always being in a corner, I love that Vince had the knowledge that they're gonna do this casket shot, and he's like, "God damn
He's
it,
falling
pal.
down the aisle.
You gotta get." I love the
With the peace sign at the end.
What the hell is going on there? I love I love that he's like, "God damn, pal. When that casket pops open, I want to see Ico Pro in the back. Don't put it in the corner. What are you doing?"
Did you see how creative they are in Rhode Island with that rest in peace sign you were saying?
With the peace symbol?
Yeah, man.
Real
Now,
quick to go-
is that the Dunkin' Donuts Center now? Same
To go
building.
back to-
So the reason I go ahead.
Is there a
I'm
reason
sorry,
the
I'm-
champion
go ahead.
comes out
Lost the
first here?
match.
I just have one
Look at the
question on
gold
the
tennis
HBK
racket.
thing. I don't know how you guys missed the biggest career HBK ruined, Mr. Chris Candido.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
See,
all right.
Mike,
Yeah, you
Mike,
get
I was
that
going to
one.
get to that.
Wow.
That is messed up. That Sunny episode was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah, it
he's
was
reading out
really
her
gross.
book.
Yes.
Lipstick part? Come on, guys.
If that is uncomfortable for me to listen to, your lipness test is off.
I will never ever get that excerpt out of the book of the lipstick in the mirror. Never. It's like you're kind of glad. You know, I'm not going to get into religion, but it makes you kind of glad that Michael's decided to go the route he did with his life.
He did,
came
yeah.
back because that guy needed it.
But
he probably would have been dead by now if he would have stayed on that.
Oh,
same
for
road.
sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But
I
let
mean,
me. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, you.
No, go ahead,
go
TJ. Go ahead.
No, I'm gonna end. I'm gonna end it. So Bad.
No, so the way that I look at it though is like, to me, like that really talks about the kind of character Michael Hickenbottom, whatever, right? Who he is, right? You're sleeping with another man's wife, and it's not only just another man's wife, but think about pro wrestling and how it's like this fraternity of brothers that work together, and they really were their own class of people. So you're really just banging essentially your brother in the business's wife. I'm surprised. I'm actually more disappointed that more people didn't drag Shawn Michaels out of an arena one night and just beat the shit out of him. I'm sorry. Like,
and you accused another man of doing it on national television in a promo.
Bingo.
But I'm going to close my own argument with Shawn. What was he doing 6 months after he never beat Triple H at WrestleMania 14? He was the Blue Blazer.
NOD, wasn't it?
Was NOD in the Blue Blazer? What was he doing 6 months after that? He was fucking dead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a part of me as an adult and being such an Owen Mark, I maybe forgives not the, I don't hate Shawn because of that, but it's like he did way more damage than he did good when he was the top guy of the company. And I think that's my biggest, again, in-ring work, he's top two. It's either him or Flair.
If you never did the Blue Blazer, if you never did the Blue Blazer again, you probably would have wrestled for maybe a few more years after that.
Well, he would have had to come down from the goddamn rafters.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. What if he just? I get it, morals, standards. He was a guy that was more like, we've heard that he wanted to get out, be a firefighter, work an everyday job, right?
Yeah.
What if he had just said yes? And I'm not saying that. What if he said yes to the Deborah Angle cheating wife thing with Double J and all that, and just gone along with what creative had planned for him? Is he still alive today? And I'm not saying that please do not take that in a way of critiquing those that, because I don't. They were really pushing the envelope. But you guys see what I'm saying with that?
Well, we had the Blue Blazer because of that angle. That was a director. He wouldn't do that angle with Jeff, so we got the Blue Blazer.
So it's kind of like,
chicken and the egg.
It's like you stood up for something that you morally were against, and you lost your life over it. I think that's why everybody gets emotional seeing the dark side of the ring.
Right. And actually, Travis brought up another one, Shane Douglas.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy. I got no defense there.
TJ, I'm going to tell you this: you're gonna win the argument on who did he make.
I know.
So that's for sure. Because
I
mean, all right. Don't be smug about it or anything.
I'm a well-planned strategist, sir.
You won the second half of that. You won question 2. Question 1.
The only guy we agreed was Sid.
Wait, Mankind? You don't think that Mankind goes from Mind Games to Hell in a Cell?
No,
that match?
Mankind made Shawn.
I think they helped each other.
And that could be fair too. But Mankind had already feuded with Undertaker.
But he had not gone through they had not done the Cell yet.
No, but Mankind was over before that. Mankind even said he was in a lull in '98. He was over. Like, again, he started with the Undertaker. He was over. He helped Shawn when he was champion kind of make that tough guy edge.
I thought he started with Goldust.
Who, Shawn?
No, Mankind.
No, he started with the Undertaker.
No, Undertaker. He debuted after WrestleMania 12, going after the Undertaker.
Yeah, I mean, he beat a jobber and then attacked the Undertaker.
Can we agree?
No, go ahead, Antonio. I've been talking enough.
Sorry, man. Can we agree that Undertaker brought out the best in Yokozuna? Because his matches with him.
Oh God, yes. I think some of Yokozuna's best matches were against Undertaker. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah.
This is my opinion, his best match.
Yeah. Well, I like the Survivor Series one with Chuck Norris.
I would still say Yoko and Brett at 9 is probably his best match, but this is up there. This is top 5.
Hogan has tainted that match for me forever.
I get that.
Yeah.
But if you just exclude the last 30 seconds of it,
I try so hard.
It's too overshadowed by Hogan doing his running.
So
But I never.
No, when we say best match, are we talking about from his ability to go and like?
Yeah, he was tested.
Because his best, if you end Hulkamania, there is nothing bigger than that.
Sure.
At that time, so like when I just want to get down to criteria. Yes, it's this one or 9. I think you could go tit for tat back and forth on, but his moment is ending Hulk because it wasn't Undertaker, doing the pile driver with Ric Flair putting it. And I don't care about the flash bulb and the screwy finish and all that.
Oh, they showed the chair shot to the head. Did you see that?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I thought they took that out.
He didn't put his hands up.
He
did not put his hands up. So
I don't remember
real
that.
Quick, guys. I just wanted to I just wanted to kind of tell you guys. I know it's a big joke about me like loving Providence and I wanted to just. The reason I put it over so much is because I have some of my fondest wrestling memories there. I've been to this particular venue so many times. I saw Shawn Michaels actually beat Stone Cold Steve Austin in this building at a house show, and I went here and saw the main event in 1989 was Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus Macho Man. I just love this venue so much. At this point in time in 1994, Providence was a shithole. I'm just going to throw that out there. So that's the reason I'm always excited to talk about Providence. But anyway.
Karl, to piggyback off of what you're saying about, tit for tat WrestleMania 9 or this match, I can see exactly why both of those would stand out at the top too. Because, not WrestleMania 9, King of the Ring is actually when it happened. King of the Ring, he murdered Hulkamania. Hulkamania is dead. And here, he murders the Undertaker. So this guy just gets to kill people for a living.
We really need to discuss you and your affinity for the word murder. You've said it a lot today. A lot. Even in our group chat.
I've been excited
all day.
We $9.99. We get to sit here and watch a guy die and go to heaven.
Yes,
he's not dead.
You were gone for 45 minutes.
Spoiler alert.
I'm sorry.
We need Horatio Kane on the case.
That damn 26-year spoiler.
Bharat, what were you when you saw? When did you see this for the first time?
Oh, this must have been like March of that year, and now, considering we're in a PC world right now, just a couple of things that I was like wondering about, Undertaker and his promos. He should have toned it down a little for Yokozuna, right? Like, what would poor Japanese sumo wrestler have understood anything about the whole cryptic tone in his promo? And there he goes. And I was watching some clip on Twitter somewhere where Hulk Hogan calls him Yokozuna. Did you guys see that? Like, it's when Gene Okerlund is sitting in a studio and there are 2 screens, and Hulk Hogan is with Jimmy Hart. And Yoko's, of course, with Mr. Fuji, and like they just sparring at each other. And he goes like, you might be Yokozuna. And I was like, well done, Hulk Hogan. I think that was the first time that he was on his way out. And
that's just typical Hulkster.
I read
yeah. And I think
that A doesn't work for me, brother.
Exactly. And these little nuances, right? Like,
it's not gonna work for me, brother.
If you see a lot of Yokozuna's like promos, he's always standing with his thumbs inside that little dress of his, like he's still wearing denim. And you're like, I don't think sumo wrestlers did that with their costume now, did they? So it's just funny, these little nuances that you notice, not when it is happening, of course, but like many, many years later about, I think they could have just like, made him a little more Japanese. And why would a sumo wrestler know how to use a chair, for example? But I mean, it is a world of make-believe, of course. But yeah, so, Karl, I must have seen...
I'm sorry, man. I read like remember the greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi, the first one.
Why would you bring that up?
No, it just reminded me. I guess the sumo wrestler that came in the Royal Rumble, the Crown Prince, thought it was Yokozuna. That's why they.
Oh, that's right. Oh. No, they was asking. Yeah, that was the crazy part.
Yeah,
we Bron, what's up with that? Aren't they getting current? It's not like North Korea where they're just now getting to like the Bowl 6, championship. They're just getting they're like, oh, cool. Oh, neat. Sean Kemp. And that was a fifth. But anyways,
Crush.
Like, don't they have they're getting the product currently, they're showing it. Why would they, and I'm not trying to lump those two in again, but why in the world, because you brought this up from the when we were on Chat Pack, that you were getting it on Saturday, you were getting like Nitro on Saturdays or something on something on Tuesday or on odd days. But why would they be asking for those people that they know are deceased?
No, because I don't think, they don't know so much about what happens behind the scenes, like real life stories like you do. I mean, you guys are a lot more abreast, like, with their real lives, the fact that they have real names and real. So for people like far away from America, I think they don't really maybe are that interested in behind the scenes stuff. And they still relate to the characters that they saw as children, right? Like for them, I'm sure like Yokozuna or something, like it's like, you just compare it to music, right? People, the bands that come to India only come once they're 70 years old. Like, Eric Clapton, I think, came to India when he was like 72 or so. Iron Maiden came to India when they were in their 60s. Megadeth came to India when they were, Dave Mustaine couldn't see, sounded like an old grandma. So
was that the Flight 666 tour when they came to India?
It was. Yes, it was. Yeah.
That is
the
an
movie
awesome
starts
tour.
with, it was. But actually they came a year prior to that in 2007. That was your first ever trip. And I remember I got into this train full of long haired guys with black t-shirts on. We went from Bombay to Bangalore, and there were like adults crying that day when Iron Maiden finally came on stage. Like they were our heroes, like growing up. So everybody, like,
for 07, I think Dickinson sounded better on Hallowed Be Thy Name than he did in the Flight 666 tour.
Definitely. That 07 was amazing. Yeah, like the first time they came there. But yeah, it's just. Oh, there you go.
Oh, Paul Bear getting physical.
Just took out Jim Cornette with the urn.
I know. Sorry, man.
You go with the casket. You go with the casket.
Everybody goes in the casket.
We all get caskets.
It's such a nicely made casket.
The only reason Crush lasted as long as he did was because of The Undertaker, and The Undertaker kept doing them favors and keeping him around. Not to take any.
Well, Macho Man liked him too, though.
Yeah. He did what he could. I mean, I'm not taking away anything from him, but he just didn't have, the it to get him up there. But every time I see Crush, I was always like, man, I was always so excited when I first saw him, when he was a babyface, and then he became a heel, and I never understood.
Oh, we have the entire Chronic team now in ring together.
Oh, there he is. J-double-F. J-double-R-E-double-T.
You know what's fun is, I know what they're trying to do here. They're trying to really display the powers of the Undertaker, how impossible it is for him to overcome. And they bring out, like, who should we have run out, guys? Oh, I know. We'll have Adam Bomb, who's beaten nobody.
It's something very kabuki-ish that's going on right now in the ring.
We'll have Crush, who's beaten nobody. And then we'll bring out the Head Shrinkers, who are now out here. We'll bring out Double J, who just debuted in the company. And we'll have Tenryu and the Great Kabuki, even though no one has any fucking clue who those two people are.
And you missed Atom Bomb.
Oh, I started with Atom Bomb.
Oh, you started with Atom Bomb.
Is this the Dungeon of Doom version, like WWE's version of Dungeon of Doom?
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It's not even a crew.
That's the best comparison to this silly shit I've ever heard in my life.
And I know it's half the locker room.
Cornette would be the Jimmy Hart equivalency.
Yes.
As the carnival barker.
Yep.
I love it.
Has Paul Bear taken the bump yet? I'm at 125, 33, 34.
Yep, you're right with it. You're right with me.
125. You're a minute ahead of me.
And here comes
24.
Diesel.
Oh, 24.
Or you're at 124.
124, 43, 44, 45.
So of everyone in the ring right now, who is like the most one of these things is not like the other?
It's Double J. Double J by a mile.
Adam Bomb?
I just want to say I paid money for Frank to wear that outfit.
I'm going Double J.
Actually, if you're going to do, like, strictly recognizable, it's Kabuki and Tenryu. No one has any clue who those two are.
Yeah.
No idea.
They all just closed the lid. Why in the world didn't Earl Hebner ring the bell?
His hand was in
He
it.
got
His
his hand
hands.
right through.
Yeah, his hand was in the door.
Oh,
Oh, there's Diesel.
Oh, there's Big Daddy
There's
Cool.
Diesel.
he's
Getting
the
ready
one of
for his
these things
Diesel
is not
spot
like
later
the others.
tonight.
That's what I said.
TJ, imagine Frank wearing that.
Oh,
The Double J outfit.
Oh no! You want to see
Halloween.
me wearing the Double J outfit?
Yes.
I paid money. I paid
Yeah.
money.
There's your Halloween costume.
Oh, there's the.
You don't want to see that, guys.
No.
You do not want to see my fat,
don't
flabby man
release
breast
the
hanging out.
powers of the urn. No.
I don't even know how you make that. I mean, how would you even begin to?
So,
How do you think that conversation went? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wonder how it went with seamstress. Hey, little old lady, gonna need a little help here. Gonna need something around the neck, headband. Then I'm gonna need no material here, or here so much, and actually another strip not there, but everything else material.
Have you ever seen?
My nipples need to be displayed prominently right here, young lady.
Have you ever?
Every carnation he's had of that out of his Double J character, he's always got that stupid thing going on with the strips.
Don't forget the
Yep,
cover
every
that areola.
Travis, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right.
Cover up your
I'll tell you what I
areolas.
did like. I did like the flashy light hat and sunglasses. I love those.
They were awesome.
Excuse me,
So do we
miss. Have you ever seen your cat get caught in the window shades? That's what I want to look like.
Vertical blind.
But yeah, vertical. Yeah, upsy
The
down.
heel beatdown continues. Oh,
Hey,
this
look.
is a travesty.
I feel like this is a foreshadowing for next.
What is Rikishi doing?
We have 3 members of the NWO in ring right now, right?
1, 2.
Kevin Nash.
I think so. Jeff Jarrett.
NWO
Jarrett,
2000,
Nash.
Diesel, and
Brian Adams.
Brian Adams. Yeah.
Yep.
Now,
And both members of Chronic.
I was about to say we got Chronic in the ring.
We've got 1/3 of the Jersey Trio. And 1/3 of the Triple Threat, because Bigelow would have been in both.
yep. So he was. What was their WCW gimmick?
The Jersey Trio.
No, that was the Triad. Jersey Triad.
Yes, the Jersey Triad, yeah.
I find Bam Bam. There's a Bam Bam. Is it Bam Bam Bret Hart King of the Ring? The end of it, the finale, or maybe it's the one leading up to it. Could be a quarterfinal match. Vastly underrated, just crazy underrated for some reason.
I like how
easy
Bam Bam was
Mr.
the
Fuji's
casket
job?
weight there.
I like how he's parading around the ring like he actually won the match by himself.
Jeff Jarrett would stand on it like a surfboard. Like
Exactly.
he would.
So maybe
No,
now
you
they
know,
just got Bam Bam to light
I
on
wonder
it.
if Mr. Fuji's like, man, I'm really gonna have to work overtime to wipe Yoko's ass tonight when we get back there. It is sweaty, and I'm about to peel that thing off.
Could you
Get a power
imagine?
washer.
Could you imagine? Like, hey, Fuji, role of a lifetime. We're gonna stick you with the sumo champion. We're gonna make our guy Yokozuna. I can't see him losing, but there's a catch. Like, what's the catch? You're gonna have to wipe his ass.
So would you rather have to do that with him or Tim White with Andre?
Oh,
Seriously, they had to do both.
I would
Or
do Yoko.
Harley with Haystacks Calhoun, which we just found out about.
Yep.
I'm gonna pick Yoko only because
Andre.
I've heard Andre could be a dick.
Yeah, nobody ever had anything bad to say about Yoko as a person.
By the way, on the Raws leading up to this Rumble, I think 2 before this one, Yokozuna wrestles local talent Dan Dubiel.
Hey, can we track this? Can we track this?
There's nothing to track. Okay, go ahead.
Well, it's about to be.
It's about to be a track.
Love this music.
I'm going to talk over this for just a second. Can we talk about how obnoxious Vince McMahon is on the call?
Yeah, sometimes.
That was one of the first things you said to me today. Was I hate Vince McMahon on the call?
On the call ever?
Not ever, but especially like there's something about this era. Oof.
The spirit of the Undertaker lives within the soul of all mankind. The eternal flame of life that cannot be extinguished. legend of which cannot be explained. The answer lies in the everlasting spirit. Soon all mankind will witness the rebirth of the Undertaker. I will not rest in peace.
What is happening here with the Undertaker?
Absolutely
Oh my
still as
God,
shit.
there's been an explosion.
Oh my God. I'm going to heaven.
What's crazy is they got color with Duggan with Yoko, but they didn't get color with The Undertaker when he gets jumped by literally everyone in order to go to kind of do a go-away angle. And if you watch the Raws leading up to this, there's a lot of actual sort of, I mean, the color schemes are really sort of tacky, but there's a real sports-based presentation. The referees matter. Vince references the referees continually.
I feel you on that. Actually, rewatching that, and I was going to say the other one is Kane. That's got to be. But I want to hit on this while they're still kind of in the picture of Undertaker and Yoko being good friends. We heard about it on the JR podcast. If you saw the special on the network, the last episode was Undertaker like retelling some fun stories, and they were in where were they in the Middle East that they couldn't get alcohol? They were I think they were in, actually, it was a Kuwaiti Cup.
Kuwait, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a
Kuwait, right, yeah.
It was a Kuwaiti Cup.
When Vader got arrested?
No.
Yeah,
that
one.
Did he get arrested? Oh, that's right. He did get arrested. That's right. Right. For beating up the talk show host. No. Yep. But when they're playing Undertaker tells a story about them playing cards, and he's like throwing lit matches into Undertaker's hair, and like all of a sudden it lands like perfect, like bloop, right in the bun, and his hair is smoking and on fire, and he's laughing it off. They're having a good time. So it's like, yeah, Andre probably was tough to work with, so, but the smellier of the two, I don't know.
Hey, Matt, you'd be best suited to answer this question. This is 24 years old. How long do I have after a murder has been committed to report the crime? I mean, can I still call 911 right now and report this? Because we just saw a man die.
He ascended.
What's
that?
Heaven, because
he
he's
ascended
dead.
to heaven.
Statute limitation.
I dispute that he's dead.
Bill, we got questions.
So in many states, there are, like Kansas, for instance, again, I got to preface all of this that I'm only licensed in the state of Kansas, so any and all legal advice is going to pertain to Kansas. But Kansas has a lifetime statute of limitations on murder, so you could make a report. I mean, this is where cold cases come from, and the idea of cold cases is that we have a lifetime statute in many states across the union where you can investigate. And even if there is a statute of limitations, there typically is a rider clause that allows for an elongation if there's some sort of concealing element by the individual who actually perpetrated the crime or some other aspect of obstruct that takes place.
Have you ever defended a murder trial?
Yep. I've never gone to trial in a murder, but yes, okay. I have defended individuals who have been accused of murder.
Was that public? Were you a public defender, or did they come to you? Because I know you said you guys are more of a client-based, like people.
Yeah, I've represented. I've been retained on a couple of felony murder cases, and I've been retained on one. What was? Yeah, it was charged as a premeditated first-degree murder case, and then when I was interning, I worked on two federal. Well, I actually worked on 3 total death penalty cases when I was interning. So it was, yes, I have worked murder cases before. And I will not provide any additional detail because I am in no way going to even though these are now public record and all of the cases have been resolved, There are still rules related to client confidentiality that if I give you enough information that you could possibly discern who that individual might be, then I have in fact violated client confidentiality. It's one of those odd aspects of the law, even after something has been resolved, even if it is public record.
By the way, this this Levitt Legal Area brought to you by 1-800-Crime-Stoppers.
Speaking of the legal area, okay, so this is like a perfect time because we're getting into the promo section. Thank you for that, Frank. And if anybody watching right now, just let me know, and we might be able to send you some of those koozies. So, last week, Karl, the Renegade.
Oh,
I did not like my answer to the question. Part of the reason I didn't like my answer to the question is because oftentimes criminal law is really where my area of expertise is at, to the extent I'm able to call it expertise, and criminal defense in particular. That's what I can kind of shoot from the hip from because that's my experience. Intellectual property law and things of that nature, not so much. Long story short is I went back and went down a bit of a rabbit hole in terms of legal research on the Renegade deal to try to find you a definitive answer on this.
I was just searching it up as well, actually.
There are a couple of public online databases that you can search. Google Scholar as well as Justia are non-exhaustive lists of cases that have been uploaded. And this is going to be a little bit real inside baseball of the American justice system and how it works. But when you take something up on appeal, you will have a published or unpublished opinion that may take place. That is typically our searchable type of case unless you have access to certain databases like the PACER system. So I have access to a pay system called Lexis Advanced.
Pop a pump.
Right. Okay. And I'm familiar with. I'm familiar with.
You'll
Lexis.
be familiar with Lexis.
Yes.
Anybody that's a journalist or is in any sort of scholarship in the United States is probably going to be familiar, or in academia is probably going to be familiar with Lexis, because there are different versions of it. There's also Westlaw. My firm subscribes to Lexis. I like Lexis. So I did some searching on that. I also have access. I have a PACER account, but there's a pay per document in order to get access in PACER. And I thought that might be a violation of my fiduciary responsibility to my partners to use the firm credit card to go hunting in the District of Connecticut and every case that Titan may have ever filed. To the non-exhaustive,
had you done that, I just want your boss coming up to you, be like, the Renegade, really? You could have researched anything. The Renegade, if he knew what wrestling was.
The nature of my partnership arrangement is that we're all 25%. So it's I'm technically my own boss, but I'm answerable to my other folks. I don't know. Semi-important distinction, but you're not wrong. Long story short is non-exhaustive. So take this with a grain of salt, and there's probably someone that knows the answer and will tell me that I'm wrong, but I could find no evidence to show that Titan ever filed lawsuit against the Turner over the Renegade, which is kind of surprising going back through this because it's a clear breach of intellectual property. Just without question, it is an Ultimate Warrior clone. So then I went down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out why they didn't do it. So when the Renegade debuted in '95, and TJ, if I'm going too long, let me know and I will stop.
I could listen about the Renegade all day.
Yeah, no, this is actually, no, all right, this is great.
When the Renegade debuted in '95, Warrior would have been in a period of semi-retirement when he left the company in '93 and then until he came back in '96. He wrestled a couple of spot shows as the Dingo Warrior, and he had actually legally changed his name to Warrior. His surname is Warrior at this point, which I think is part of the reason why WWF and Titan didn't come after him directly for breach of what they would have perceived to be their intellectual property at that time, even though he was still wrestling under the Warrior moniker at other shows. The second reason that I don't think they came after WCW and Turner is because it's not until summer of '96 that the 83 week starts. WCW and Turner is zero threat at this particular point when the Renegade debuts. It's sort of this out of sight, out of mind. It's not until between 96 and 99 when Warrior leaves the company that it gets super litigious between Warrior and Titan. So they start filing lawsuit against who they captioned. This is also kind of interesting. I did find Titan v. Hellwig. So even though he had legally changed his name to Warrior at this point, Titan captioned the case as Titan v. Hellwig, as opposed to using his legal name at the time, because they were still operating under the presumption that they owned all of the intellectual property to both Warrior and Ultimate Warrior.
Bruce talked about that on one of the pods when they were talking about it. I remember that. Yep.
And Bruce has addressed this. The Grilling JR Ultimate Warrior talk that got a little bit into this stuff. So I think there might even have been back in 93 some question as to who should have been filing lawsuit. Should it have been Warrior attacking WCW to protect his own IP, or should it have been Titan, who were probably still operating under the belief that they owned the intellectual property? So outside of Pacer, I don't know that I could have found the answer, but this leads me to something else that I talked to TJ about. Frank, I'm sorry for this. After this episode tonight, I'm going to be subscribing to The Observer, to PWI, and to The Torch. I'm going to subscribe to all three. I'm not going to bring up star ratings. I'm not going to bring up opinion. I'm not going to bring up any of that stuff. But from a Meltzer and Alvarez and everyone else who have been the quote-unquote journalists of wrestling have done a pretty good job of cataloging lawsuits that have been filed throughout time. So I think the best way to stay on top of this is going to be to look at call them newsletter, call it dirt sheet, depending on what side of the aisle you're on. Look at the newsletters from that particular era to see whether or not there were pending lawsuits or there's any reporting on lawsuits to give me a point of reference to start going down the rabbit hole of and a place to look as well.
Now to cut it off, just time code real quick.
142, 40, 41, 42. Here comes Owen Hart. Now, something got mentioned in the chat while Matt was having his legal rundown, which was fascinating. We all take for granted here in the States, we've had wrestling here in the United States forever. And a lot of characters have their own gimmick matches. Undertaker has the casket match. You know, Mick Foley has the Boiler Room Brawl, War Games, on down the list. Bharat, you just said something in the chat that blew my mind.
Same here.
Please explain to people why people in India did not understand the concept of the casket match.
Yeah, I mean, a very small portion of it would have understood, because we do have Christians, we do have Catholics, and all sorts of people who follow Christianity in India, but it's a very, like, back then was a serious minority. And so it's a Hindu dominant country, and we do not bury our dead. We burn them on the pyre, like I did to my father a few years ago. So we don't understand this whole concept of a casket and a coffin and burying them. And then, so we have churches. I went to a convent school, yes. But yes, back in 94, for a lot of us, we were like, wait, that's what you do to people who die in America or in the white world? That's not what happens here. So we carry them, we put them on like a bamboo, kind of looks like a stretcher really, put garlands on them and carry them to the cemetery, and then we put them on the pyre and we burn them, and it's like a lengthy procedure. So we really, like, the Undertaker, I mean, for us was like a scary character, like a monster kind of guy, more than, and like even the fact that Paul Bearer spoke like Travis pulls it off perfectly, like he spoke like that, we didn't understand. We just thought like this from some horror movie. We did not know, the Undertaker, and Paul Bearer is the guy. Like it was just like, it took us many years after that to know, so now that's what they were talking about. Like, it was amazing. Like, we just didn't get the whole him scaring Kamala and why Yokozuna would get scared by all that at all.
So you see Paul Bearer and you're like, well, that's a stupid name. Like you don't even put two and two together. Like it's
No.
related to the gimmick.
No, we just thought he's like a scary looking guy because with all the makeup. And it reminded me a lot of, we would joke about it in our family because a lot of Indian women, especially back then, even now, there's this whole thing of fair skin. It's a big deal in India. So you get a lot of products, skin product powders and creams and all that you are supposed to apply, which apparently makes you fair skin because it's a big deal in India. I mean, we are a very, very racist country. Me growing up with this color skin, even in India, was racially, like you get profile, like, you're a dark skinned guy because depending on which part of the country you come from, some are fair skin. My wife's very fair skin. Well, I'm not. So a lot of women in my family, including my mother, would apply this cream called Fair and Lovely. Think about that. And like, and some of my aunts who are really, really dark, who would like before going for a wedding or something, they would apply so much of it that they would look like Paul Bearer. So I was like, oh, maybe that's just Paul Bearer just applied a lot of Fair and Lovely, maybe. And he just has this scary voice. So we never understood what the characters meant, what the gimmick was all about. We understood sumo wrestler, the Japanese guy who barely looked Japanese, but that's all right. That's an argument for another day. But the Undertaker character took a long time for us to understand. Oh, yeah, that's what it is.
So, Bharat, with that in mind, why was the Undertaker, even with the lack of understanding of what parts of the gimmick were, why was he so over? Was it just look? Was it just...
Yeah. It was the look. It was the look and the fact that he was so scary. Like, he was this scary monster kind of guy who you wouldn't get to see on Indian television. And like, you kind of resonated to it. Like, it was almost like he was the anti-hero. It's like watching a horror movie, right? You don't want to watch it, but you just can't stop yourself from watching it. It was like watching the X-Files for a lot of people, seriously. Because when the X-Files became a big deal in India, people were
I want to
scared.
follow up on that real quick. And Karl, I know you've got something too. So you touched on that it was a little like seeing horror movies that you didn't have. Did you have any sort of point of reference for that horror trope? Or what was the point of reference for the horror trope?
Oh, it was just like, so in fact, in a lot of Indian horror movies, like, a lot of these Indian spirit stories, it's all about, because we believe in reincarnation, right? Our religion, at least, like Hinduism. So we like, you never die. You always keep like getting reborn in some form or the other. So it's slightly complex. I wouldn't go into too much detail, but it's like when you're not cremated properly, you're just like a spirit hanging around. So you're neither here nor there. So a lot of these scary characters in the movies would be women. So women in these, like this white garb, it would be dark, and they would be just walking on the street with their hair kind of covering their face. So that is what for us was the Undertaker. He was just a scary, like a ghost who walks almost, like, not to quote the Phantom, but he was the ghost who walks. Purely also, it had a lot to do with the hair and the whole eyes, and also a lot of mythological characters in Hinduism are demons who have that kind of look, who are long hair. I mean, though I have long hair, like it's looked down upon in, like, I was always stared at in India. It's not considered cool. I mean, it is in like a hipster society, but like for a lot of Indians, like a lot of people would come and tell my mother, it's okay. You're like, it doesn't mean that you have given birth to a bad son. It's that, like, so because it's always linked to like Indian mythology where the evil characters always look like this and like the Undertaker.
Not to get too deep into the weeds on this, but I thought my audio had cut out, but you clarified it. So I can paint a picture in my head. They go to the grave site or the place, and is this burning taking place above ground on this bamboo thing?
Yeah.
Out just like near the grave, like where the whole. So wait, they're not going to put them in a hole, or what do they do with the ashes?
Oh, so what happens is, so you just you create like this structure with the bamboos, like you said, and you burn, that's the pyre. So you burn the body there. And a day later, it's generally the son or whoever is cremated, the person, you go and you collect the ashes, and you guys would have heard about it. You go and like pour the ashes into the Ganges or the Ganga river, or actually any river, but the Ganga or the Ganges they're supposed to be like holy. So you just pour the ashes in there, and like we don't like hold on to the ashes in our Like, we don't have an urn and all that. We just take them in a pot
Okay.
so that they can move on and like get reincarnated in a strange way.
Do people watch the burning?
Yeah. I mean, like like I'll tell you, like I've been to a few, and I did, like I cremated my father. So you actually are supposed to wait till a certain point, like till the whole body starts burning. It's weird. It's very weird.
I know, I'm fascinated. I just had no idea about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's like especially when it's
Jones,
your own father.
Mike Jones.
Like, oh, there you go.
Virgil's here. Virgil in the house.
That meat sauce.
Well, I mean, like you learning about the casket and me learning about this. I'm like, did he say bury or burn? And then I'm like, then I started doing some research. I'm like, oh, and then you even I just didn't know. That is probably the same reaction or similar that you would have had seen. Like, I don't get that, but this was more like, I just didn't know that's how it worked. I didn't know what a bris was in Jewish culture until like recently, if anybody knows what that is.
Mm-hmm. So we're at 151, 25, 26, 20. I didn't mean, I don't know.
Wait, you're at 150. What are you at?
51, 32, 33, 34.
Virgil's walking to the back.
We're watching Diesel just obliterate everyone. And Travis, we're going to jump to you in a second.
The Diesel spot.
But
hashtag Magic Mike.
We almost saw Bob Backlund straight up old man strength Diesel out of the ring a minute ago. Travis, you had something you wanted to jump in with.
That's what I was going to go with, is that Bob Backlund thing. I think we're only like 9 months before Diesel beats him in whatever it was, 8 seconds at that house show.
Yeah.
I know that they planned stuff a long time ahead of time, but I think that was just a little accidental foreshadowing that we saw that him put him out pretty quick. But I like that I'm talking when my man comes in.
I'm kind of low-key scared of Bob Backlund. I wouldn't want to fight that guy today, right now, in the best shape of my life.
Fight, debate, arm wrestle, thumb wrestle. No.
Be represented by him, Darren Young.
Yeah.
On
the Rick Martel episode, did you guys hear the Bob Backlund story about the guy who arm wrestled in the bar?
Yeah. Smashed it over. You gonna leave us alone now?
I did not see that coming out of Bob.
No.
This is my least favorite version of Macho Man, by the way, by far.
He's watered down.
He's not in ring shape. He's been doing commentary, so he's pulling a Ric Flair. He's doing the full bodysuit.
He's the semi-macho man.
Yeah, I hate it.
Once a macho man, always a macho man.
You know what's awesome is
Matt.
Bring it out, Matt. I want to hear it. Yeah, let's come on with it. I want to see the 1, 2, 3 every time you do it. Yeah, bring
macho
it
off.
We got a competition. Come on, let's go.
Well, this here might have been a little bit of the chubby man, but that's okay because we're gonna get it back when we go over to WCW. Easy for me to say, That's why they made human growth hormone. Yeah, stick it in your ass.
Giving you a 7.
I feel like I just watched a chair dance off contest. Like I don't even know. This is like tit for tat.
Like a 10. A fucking 10.
Travis, you're good, man. You're good. I love it.
Wow.
Mike, where are you at on 94 Macho Man?
I'm all in. I mean, I was always a Macho Man guy, but real quick, I gotta throw this out there for you guys. Think about this. We have Nash in the ring, Virgil, Savage, Jarrett, Crush. They were all NWO members. Like what, 5 years later?
Not even.
Not even.
I mean, well, it spans it because Jarrett, I think, was 2000.
NWO 2000, but I mean,
can we not see the words NWO 2000 ever again on the show?
Oh,
we don't speak of that evil.
You know, we're gonna end up watching Bash at the Beach 2000 at some point. So
I would rather watch Bash at the Beach 2000 before Halloween Havoc 98. Though I'll give you that.
Well,
I'd rather watch Halloween Havoc 98 over anything involving Vince Russo.
We actually need to
from
talk
WCW.
about that. So
That's a good point of clarification, Henry.
This week on 83 Weeks, they're doing the first SmackDown on Fox. Now, for the purposes of our show.
There goes Jeff.
Wait, the first SmackDown on Fox?
Yeah. For the purposes of for the purposes of our show, that doesn't work for me, brother. So we need to figure out what show we're gonna do.
How about the first SmackDown? Period.
Wait, aren't we getting into a month of Halloween? Shouldn't we do all spooky themed stuff of like it's October?
The reason why we're either getting ready to or just hit the 1-year anniversary of SmackDown on Fox.
How did you guys get to Crush? I mean, when I'm at 155.41.
I'm at 155, 47, 48, 49.
But didn't somebody say Crush like a minute ago?
I mentioned him coming up next.
Oh, coming up next. I was okay. Sorry.
TJ, once again, our time codes are perfectly in sync.
No, I'm in sync, like perfect. But I was like, how did Mike get ahead of us?
Oh my God. Okay, I get it. Bash of the Beach 2000 is the whole Russo promo, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where he went into business for himself.
Man, it's fall. It's changing of the leaves, the foliage. I feel like Halloween.
1994, they killed a man.
Yeah,
like tonight.
Well, that was
We
Chamber of
could
Horrors.
cover Halloween Havoc '93.
No, Halloween Horrors was 93.
Well, think about it. We could watch. So, quick trivia here, guys. Did you know? You guys know what Harlem Heat's individual names are, right?
Well, it was Cole and
Stevie Ray, Booker T.
Yeah, but it was Cole
and Kane. It was Kane and Cole, and I watched that show last week after we all got off, just because I wanted to.
This was my original.
What the hell was that?
Doink. This was my original Halloween costume, but it fell through.
Mine did too, unfortunately, and I'll just drop the bomb here. I was going to be Dave Meltzer for Halloween.
Would have been legendary.
What do you mean was gonna be? You're still not doing it?
His press credentials didn't come through, which is very sad.
I actually got on this website where you can make a press badge, and that was going to be like the piece, like the cherry on the cake that really just made it look like Meltzer. I was going to wear like a silver polo shirt and a hair piece and have a copy of Young Bucks book sitting in the background. But I had this press badge. Like I found a website that makes press badges. So I put a picture of Dave Meltzer's face on there, put the name Dave Meltzer, all this crap. And I get an email back like 2 days later saying, yeah, we're going to refund your money in about 7 to 10 days, but we can't, that violates copyright laws and celebrity likenesses and all that crap. I'm like, Dave Meltzer isn't a celebrity.
No.
Make it at Kinko's. Make it at.
This is still in the realm of possibility.
Very easy.
I'll look into it. Hopefully Eric Bischoff didn't watch this because the whole point was to shock Eric Bischoff.
Like Eric Bischoff is going to watch this show. Are you kidding me?
Eric, if you're watching, act surprised.
Well, let's see. Is he in the Discord channel right now?
Wait, you're going to go as Bischoff?
No.
No, he's going as Meltzer.
Oh yeah, okay. I thought you said that now look at Luna Vachon.
Yeah. I'm trying.
Real quick, Carl, would you do her?
I'm thinking.
Yes.
Yes, for me. Yes, she's over in my world.
Yeah, is that a real question?
Carl, you might not have a choice if it's what she wants.
Oh, yeah. No, if she's coming on to me, no, I'm just going to go with the flow.
Carl, I just realized you and Luna have the same hairdo.
I was going to say, that she would be picking up on me with that. She'd be like, nice hair.
Can we talk about the number of pomodors that have existed in this? And I know it's sort of like a very pronounced business in the front mullet that's going on. Like a little bit of the Hard Target inspired Kentucky waterfall is happening. But this is, I mean, Nash had one. Crush is like kind of half-assing it like his entire career. And Luna is definitely working it. So...
Well, folks, it only took us 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 38 seconds, but we finally got the show started. Here we go. We're banging Luna. We're talking mullets. This is what we do here on the show.
That's what I was waiting to. Yeah,
if I look puzzled for 2 hours, that's why I was wondering.
I keep looking at Bam Bam, and I'm so very happy my mother had that choice taken away from her. She wanted to name me Bam Bam.
Like legit, legit wanted to name you Bam Bam. Like your legal
from the
first name.
Flintstones or from this?
Wow.
The third man. The third man.
The third man has made it.
I can't tell you guys how many times I've seen a Bam Bam match with somebody watching go, Phil, you should tattoo your head like that. And I'm like, why? Why would I ruin my life so badly? But, the more I look at it now that I'm like 40 or close to 40, I'm 38, it's like, who gives a shit? Just tattoo the hell out of my head.
I think Vanderlei Silva is the only guy that's really been able to pull off the head tattoo.
So the debate came down to Henry or Bam Bam?
Yeah.
My father and my grandmother took that choice away from my mother, for which I am eternally
What about
grateful.
Pebbles?
Where did Bam Bam come from?
Was Pebbles ever?
My mom.
Yeah.
I always
did you
thought,
hear? Did you hear Mabel right there in the corner? He's like, third man, brother, when he whispered in his ear with the clothesline, right to
he
Kevin
can't
Nash.
be the third man. Sting's not even in this pay-per-view.
They're pre-planning this. They're getting it all laid out in advance. See, you just whispered in his ear again, right there. They're
So are
getting
you
it laid
saying it
out.
was supposed to be Adams, Nash, and Mabel?
God, that would have been the worst group of all time.
That
God
would have
damn.
definitely not been for life.
It would have been 83 days, not 83 weeks.
And why is it guys like that
83
always
minutes.
and getting to name it, since we're incorporating this whole name game? When I found it on Wiki or Bruce said it when he's like, "Oh yeah, old Nelson." I'm like, who the hell are you talking about? Who the hell's Nelson?
Oh, y'all, Thurman Sparky Plug.
Oh,
Give me the belt. Just
Thurman
give me
Plug.
the belt. I'll throw them all out of the ring, and you give me the belt.
Thurman Plug. My friends call me Sparky.
Always love Hardcore Holly.
I want
Hardcore Holly
those.
just broke my network, and I have to reset again.
Pretty sure this is old Bob's debut.
If they
Matt-
have these on Chalkline, the spandex whole get up, I'm
Oh
buying
my
it.
lord!
I
So-
would kill for that.
Has anyone ever justified why Kevin Nash is doing it right now? Why the straps being pulled down levels you up automatically? What's
Jerry Lawler.
Oh, that's a good point.
but he only had one strap, so if you have two straps coming down, is that like extra level you up?
Well, if you recall, there was a brief time in like 91, 92, Perfect was doing it too.
Oh yeah,
That's
but
true.
Perfect just does it because he's perfect. He doesn't need the straps down. That's just
So-
decoration.
Frank,
I think,
go ahead, Antonio.
I think Diesel did that because Mike is watching right now.
Oh, I'm gonna show my titties.
Mike and his areolas.
Mm.
Why are two of them trying to throw
mean-
out Bam Bam, and they should all be trying to throw out the third man?
Yep.
Hey, Mike, get back in there. You had something, and then we went off the rails
Oh
again.
no, you're fine. I was gonna make a cheap shot joke at you that I think you need an IT guy because your network keeps dropping out at you.
You're not wrong.
I love the
Rod, we pay more for internet than anyone else in the world, and it's terrible, terrible internet.
Shawn Michaels.
Oh,
There we go,
TJ,
baby.
here we go.
Here
Cut the
comes
promo.
Sean about to ruin Chris Candido's life.
I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but they just put a minute ago, they showed, Providence, Rhode Island, the Civic Center on the screen, and Frank low-key popped in his office when he saw his
I did pop. I popped. I was like, yeah. Real quick while I have you all, Matt, you and I have talked a little bit about history on the phone, and I wanted to throw some history your way and tell me if you knew it. But did you know the name of the man that wrote "I Am a Yankee Doodle Dandy" and "You're a Grand Old Flag"?
I've known it at one time, but it is not currently in my memory data bank.
So his name is George M. Cohen, and he was born in 1878 in the great state of Rhode Island in Providence. Just throwing it out there. Throwing it out there.
Ugh.
Frank, I love you for that.
Anyway, so in our eclectic group here, this is what's so fun about this show. We have transportation covered. We have IT covered. Law, get a Dewey on the bus. We're covered. We've got a financial guy. We've got a news anchor. We've got a journalist. What else do we need?
Well, we need to know
With the
this
world
Bam
over.
Bam ending. Wait, where did it stem from? Was she a hardcore Flintstones fan?
Yeah, was she just a mark for Fred? What happened there, Henry?
That is my guess. I honestly don't know, and I've never asked because I've never been that curious. I was
Oh,
always just
Lord.
told as a kid it was because my mother was apparently a big wrestling fan of Bam Bam Bigelow. Instead of being named Bam Bam, I became a junior.
When were you born?
1990.
See, Bam Bam only debuted in WWF in '88. And he was in Jim Crockett for a cup of coffee before that. So I can't imagine that's where it came from.
Look at Mo in the ring there. Mo has like probably my favorite I got hired for WWF story of all time. You guys know how he got hired?
The rapping in the elevator one?
Rapping in the elevator. They just,
Do-
they just gave him a job.
Do we know how he got hired? Come on.
Do we know who gave him that haircut? What I was going to ask. The other thing is, Frank, per the advice over text of TJ, you do know my Halloween costume changed.
To what?
It's epic.
My idea one. Do you remember what idea one was? I'll text you.
Yes, that's what you're gonna do. No, I thought that's what you were doing.
No. I'll text you. I'm gonna put myself on mute.
Yeah, please do.
No, put
I
it
wanted
up there.
I wanted to
We're
tell you
all
something
friends.
silly. I wanted to tell you something silly about Mo. I used to go to a wrestling event. Every year, wrestling would come to the Warwick Musical Theater, which legitimately was it was a musical theater, but it was a tent essentially, and it had an orchestra pit. And one year, I saw King Mabel versus the Undertaker actually at this show, and
I'm sorry.
Mo didn't. What? Okay. No, Mo didn't know his footing in the ringside area and literally fell into the orchestra pit. I just had to throw that out.
That's phenomenal.
Wait, is this an orchestra pit that they couldn't raise and lower? Because that's just irresponsible.
It was built in. It was like the orchestra pit was like built into the building because it wasn't meant to have wrestling. Like the ring was literally on a road, like a circulating stage. It was crazy. It was probably one of the smaller rings you had ever seen.
Here's something we haven't really discussed on this show. Mike, have you been to a live event, either WWE, WCW, whatever, major promotion?
Yes, I have. I've been to a few of them. My first I'm assuming this is where you were going with this, TJ, but I'll just throw it out there. My first live event I'd ever been to was a WWF house show. The main event was World Champion Shawn Michaels against IC Champion Goldust. My second show, however, that I went to live was WrestleMania 13, which was a blast.
And he's not done there yet, folks. What else were you at, Mike?
I mean, I've been to a few. What are you leading with here, Carl?
Money in the Bank 2011.
Oh, yeah. Money in the Bank 2011 for sure, yeah. Spring Stampede 2000, which was a shit show. Yeah, actually, funny story on Spring Stampede 2000. I went there with a buddy who had promised the whole way there that we were going to sit front row. And we get there, and we're in the nosebleeds. And he goes, 1 second, and he disappears. And then all of a sudden he comes back and there's two security guards and they're carrying chairs. His uncle was the head of security for the United Center in Chicago. And they walked us all the way down to the main floor, set us up with chairs and said, don't leave these seats because you ain't getting back down here without us. And we got to sit down there for Spring Stampede 2000. So I was front row in my turd 316 t-shirt with hair that looked like Karl's, but it was slicked back because it was super oily because I wasn't showering. And my glasses. I was a total geek. I was like 13.
I don't know what part of that story is my favorite. I think it's all my favorite.
No, the hair part's easily the best. And then we were both at 30 to witness the debauchery, and your dad throwing beads at women, and then the being out in the street. Is it raining? Is phenomenal.
Yes.
If anybody missed that.
We all need to go to an event together when COVID goes away because it will be a fucking blast.
I can't wait.
Absolutely.
Do you know how hard people are going to go? Like, think about that. If we've been held back in this, oh boy.
Mike, there's a Black Label Pro show coming up now. I'm just throwing that out there.
But I'm saying, like, anything like New Orleans, like a party town like that, or using the new Vegas arena for a WrestleMania, people are going to go hard because they feel like they've been held back.
Yep.
They're going to go. I know I am.
Where's
long as it's
Vegas
not
scheduled
prov-
for
as
this
long
year?
as-
LA?
It's
Yes.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
I have plans to go to it. Like
Same.
I have set up plans to go to the brand new $5 billion stadium. It's $3.5 million over budget.
Is this
$3.5 billion?
Is this supposed to be the new Ram Stadium?
Rams Chargers SoFi Stadium? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's that insane look at that nest with
It's
the glass
gorgeous.
ceiling. It's insane. It's
Yeah.
honestly a modern marvel. Like not to like use that term. It really is amazing.
Let's go to Travis. Travis, have you ever been to a live event?
He's on the phone.
Okay, well, Bharat, we'll go to Bharat. Bharat, have you ever been on to a live event?
No, unfortunately, never. Like, the wrestling did come to India a few times, but that was, I don't think we could afford to go because tickets were really, really expensive. And there was no point paying like 1,000 rupees and going and sitting somewhere in the back. So we didn't go. Funnily enough, I've been trying to get myself to go to, there are a couple of wrestling promotions in Adelaide. I think one's called Riot City Wrestling and the other's called Adelaide Championship Wrestling. I started following them on Instagram and Facebook, and now they're letting crowds back in. So I'm going to see my first wrestling show in Adelaide, some local promotions. I'm really, really looking forward to that. Maybe a couple of weekends from now. But yes, maybe you guys can come over to Australia sometime during a WWE show. Imagine that. Yeah.
Wait, you guys have a promotion over there called WSW, right?
Oh, I haven't checked that out. In Adelaide?
That's right. That's in Sydney. That's where
It's
like
in
Shane
Sydney.
Thorne came through there, and like what's her name?
Marty Skrull, I think, is still technically the world champ of that promotion.
Oh boy, that's not going to be for long.
That's not
No.
What's her name? Isn't Emma? Wasn't she Australian?
Emma's from there, yes.
Yeah.
WSW Iconics. Yeah.
Emma and the Iconics, man. Here we go. We're steering the ship back in that direction again.
I love the Iconics.
So so Mike, you said your second live event was WrestleMania 13?
Correct.
So I got extremely lucky. I never went to a live event as a kid. My parents didn't like wrestling. They didn't particularly care that I watched it. My dad made fun of me about it actually all the time. But my first live event, now mind you, I'm born and raised, other than the years I was in the military, I lived in LaPorte, Indiana my entire life. My first live event was my 18th birthday, March 30th, 2003, WrestleMania 19 in Seattle. That was my first live event.
Wow.
And I got to see Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar beat the shit out of each other. I watched Austin's last match. I watched Jericho and HBK, which tore the house down. The opening match was Rey Mysterio and Matt Hardy for the Cruiserweight title. Like, this show, to me, WrestleMania 19 is the most underrated of all the Manias. Like, it just doesn't get talked about nearly as much as it should. The show was phenomenal.
It was.
DJ, really quick, Bharat said he's got to go. It's been a pleasure with him. It's awesome.
Yeah, man, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I think I need to go because my wife's back from the walk-in. She's just waiting for me to have lunch, and she'll put me in a submission. She's very, very powerful.
Oh, don't get put in that camel clutch.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me on. This was really, really fun. And yeah, just I said keep sending me the Zoom invites. I'll just log in and do like a run-in whenever I can.
Yes, I count on it.
Awesome.
Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much, guys.
Take care.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So-
I'm so glad we're all like a family. It's
Yes,
so
we
good.
are.
Awesome.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
You're a
Cheers,
part of
brothers.
us now.
Carl's
Thank
that's
you so
that
much.
brother everybody wants it to sound.
Yeah.
That's
You
not
guys
true.
are talking about going to live
Nah,
events.
Carl's good.
I think my
Yeah.
my list of live events probably pales in comparison to all of yours. In my life, I have been to, you can say either 2 or 3, however you look at it. I went to a live Raw in 2006. It was back when Shawn Michaels was feuding with Vince. They had the whole McMahonism thing going on. And I remember, the only thing I remember from the whole show is the picture of Vince McMahon at the Last Supper. Like he had like his hand on like Jesus' shoulder. He's like, yeah, like, and
right after that, they did a tape SmackDown, and I was I think it was the 10th row from ringside for all of that, and then 4 years ago, I was at an NXT house show where Bobby Roode was champion.
Nice.
You see that in Cape Girardeau? Where'd you go for that? St. Louis?
Yeah, it was St. Louis for both of them.
Okay.
So
I can't believe you weren't at Hell in a Cell 1.
Nope. I was a very, very poor child growing up, so there was no wrestling events live for me. I tell you what, how I got my pay-per-views is the stuff of legends. I know, I think I've already told you this, Karl. So one day I got bored in my bedroom, just for no reason at all. I was just kind of fiddling around with my television, and I saw there was this coax cable behind my television. I'm like, I don't remember this coax cable, or let's just hook it up. Let's just see what happens. So I hooked it up, and not only did I have every cable channel for free, I had every pay-per-view for free. Every WWE pay-per-view, every WCW pay-per-view. And as long as I lived there, until I moved out, it was never, ever shut off.
It's unreal.
So I saw 19 in Seattle. After that, all my events are in the area. My next show would have been Extreme Rules 2011 or 2014. I think it was Cena and Rusev in the strap match was the main event of that one. It was not good. And then I went to the first. I'm like the Forrest Gump of going to live events. I went to the first live event in Hammond, Indiana, in like 30 years because of some disagreement they had with WWE.
Is that the casino?
Yeah, I think it was. And then I was at the Monday Night Raw in Indianapolis after Paul Bearer died. Ended up being the Paul Bearer Memorial Show. I was at that Raw.
Who is this? Tom Brandy? Who is this?
Which one?
Is this the model?
No, that's Rick Martel, my friend.
He looks so out of shape.
Well, you gotta remember, if you listen to Bruce's show,
I'm not done with that one yet.
He'd been off for a few months. I think 6 months when this happened.
I honestly did. He looks so
rotund.
I believe he's only about 89 here.
I don't know
we
what.
Need to, I think, Karl, for those of you that are even in Tony's thing, as far as going to a live event, I think the next Zoom chat we should convince Tony to like hook it up and get us on his Patreon to come down to a show in Jacksonville.
Absolutely.
For AEW.
Well, wait a minute. Low-key Big Hog, we get free tickets to a show, or isn't that a part of the tiers that being a top guy?
That's top guy.
So shouldn't we technically get AEW tickets for free?
But so we can get the tickets to the show from Top Guy. Maybe have Tony, little airfare. Send us on down.
TJ, we live close. Let's just road trip it, bro.
I'm down.
Dude, I've still got a voucher from when WrestleMania got canceled this year.
I was to say, I have the same thing. I have two.
And now we got an attorney to come with us, so when we get into trouble, we're golden. Even though he's only licensed in the state of Kansas.
Oh, by the way, Matt, you can't drink when we go to Jacksonville because you're our savior.
Hey,
what?
Hey,
Greg the Hammer's wearing Hulk Hogan. What is going on?
I gotta say real quick, I'm not an attorney, even I know this. Never blow.
That's not entirely true.
What?
In your face.
Really?
I mean, if she's over 18, it's allowed.
Yeah.
Different context.
Well
Good
played,
shit,
Matt.
pal.
Well played.
Yeah, we're not. I heard blow, and I'm like,
The breathalyzer test there, Frank. Settle down.
Oh.
We were just. I know we were just talking about Luna Vachon, and we know you're a mark for Luna, but it's breathalyzer.
That's gonna have a lot.
And Lex Luger is
lot
also
of
in the ring
teeth.
too. If we're talking about blow.
I gotta say that's not gonna.
Ooh.
Good call.
Also him, like,
I'm a
dragging people with their heads.
Oh
My
wait,
head.
we were talking about the jobs we have in the group. Antonio can drive all of us down to Florida.
That's right. Dude, we should
What
run
kind of a crime is it to
A party
steal a
bus.
city
Yes,
bus?
Matt. I was just thinking that. We get a party bus.
Actually, there's a Greyhound stop that runs through Wichita. I'm pretty sure we probably are all close enough to a Greyhound stop that we could make this work.
We could
And
just
if you're close,
Not all of us.
we could just make it a 3-week vacation.
I got 2 rules.
All right, so
I'm
who
just
wants
gonna
to
I'm
make
gonna
the
swing by
call?
New York and pick up Henry and
Somebody has to
Antonio.
call my wife and convince her that me being gone for 3 weeks will work in her favor somehow.
Whoa, we didn't say 3 weeks.
Phil.
Hold on. Yeah.
I got 2 rules. I got 2 rules. 1, don't be drunk when I'm driving.
Can't promise anything.
Yeah, I know that. I'm more lenient towards that. But 2, not burn your hands with gasoline.
I can't make
Oh,
that
yeah,
promise
we
either.
need to talk about this.
We
Santos
do.
had someone try to light themselves on fire. Please tell this story.
Yes,
Oh, God.
today. It was a crazy lady on my bus. For those that didn't know, she was sitting in the back of the bus. I was driving my route.
When?
Today.
Oh, by the way, this segment is now called "No Yelling on the Bus" with Antonio.
Okay. All right, full story. So I'm driving my route today. A few hours ago, I had a crazy lady on my bus sitting all the way in the back. So I'm just doing my route. All of a sudden, I smell gasoline. So I'm thinking the bus is like leaking or whatever. Looking in the back, this lady's trying to light her hands on fire. The gasoline. So I had to call the police and all that, get her removed.
Why?
All right, Antonio, we need to get you a job where you can work from home.
No, I love my job. How else am I gonna have these stories for you guys?
What is going on in Rochester?
That's a solid fact.
That's a Saturday.
What?
That's a Saturday.
What was she inebriated? Could you sense it?
No, she just nut. She is called Tarp Lady.
Look at Marty Jannetty, guys, getting his long-awaited revenge on HBK over there. It's finally going to happen.
He has yet to commit excuse me, easy for me to say. He is yet to confess to a murder at this point.
Yeah, that's a nice leeway to Marty Jannetty's bizarre issues.
Oh, and I was just about to go to our strip clubs open in Jacksonville, and then
they never closed.
Did they?
I'm pretty sure they didn't. I have friends in Tampa, and they said that theirs didn't close.
I think there were some strip clubs down in Florida that went to a mask policy really early. That way they didn't have to do distancing.
I've been to a couple of those. Oh, never mind.
Hey, let's go to Santos. Santos, live events you've been to.
Wrestling events?
Yeah.
Well, the first one I went to was back in like April 2002. It was the SmackDown after the first WWE draft when Hulk Hogan came out in his red and yellow. And like when Triple H was in the ring, I remember that. You had The Rock, Jericho, Edge, Angle, everybody there. The other event was a SmackDown with the handicap match between Big Show, Zach Allen, and Stephanie McMahon. Brock Lesnar came out and F5 Big Show, the whole roof just like came off.
And then he did his girly scream.
Nah.
I'm fairly certain Adam Bomb is number 30 in this Rumble.
He is.
Yeah. Sounds right.
Then we still have 18 minutes to go.
Other than that, all the other events I've been to, not really like memorable. I mean, not really big, but I mean, I got to the last SmackDown I was here a few years ago. I got to meet AJ Styles, and it was a small thing like too. Like when I was at the SmackDown event, I think the main event was AJ versus Kevin Owens when he was the U.S. champion. But a side note, you guys gotta laugh. Like we had a girl up in front of me and my ex at the time. I don't know what was wrong with her, but she kept farting the whole time.
Wait, loud enough to hear during a...
Oh, no. No, because...
I was just going to say, how was this verified? That you knew it was her? Was she like cupcaking you and farting in her hand and then throwing it in your face every time? How did you know it was her?
What the hell is going on in Rochester?
I used to think I lived in the crazy part of New York.
No.
Because my ex, like, I know, like, she has her time of the month and all that, so I'm used to it. So, because remember how Shinsuke's entrance used to be, like before he went heel, like in the arena, like when he was, I don't know, some random times like the light would go on when he was doing his thing in the ring, like it would be like a loud pop. As soon as that happened, the girl screamed. Maybe like 10 seconds later.
Did she fart or does she have halitosis?
I don't know, but it was nasty. I almost threw up.
Okay, let's I don't know how to transfer. I don't know how to.
I got a fun live event story.
Does it involve flatulence?
No.
Or someone lighting themselves on fire.
No.
Hold on. I'm sorry, man. But
You're fine.
Just like, no, I got tons of info for future episodes. So look forward to it.
We do. So real quick, my mom lost her license shortly after I was born for too many DUIs. Matt will understand.
My dad's done that.
Well, my mom proceeded to continue driving without a license.
My dad did that.
That's a problem.
My dad did that.
And here's
it's an Indiana thing.
They're optional in Indiana, right?
Yes. This is so. Anyways, she only got busted, I think, once for it, and I was in the back seat of the car. And it's a total side note. My dad picked me up from the jail, and they asked if they were going to bail my mom out. And my dad said absolutely freaking not, and walked out. Neither here nor there. So go to WrestleMania 13. The next day, my mom is going to some. I don't even know what it is, Matt. You probably know it better than I would, but she's going to some like board, not a parole board or anything like that, but to like a licensing board to get approval to get her license back. And she's telling them she hasn't had a drop of alcohol in years, which is a complete lie. My mom was an alcoholic, still is. Not to get too personal there, I guess. So that day, my dad, Karl will understand this a little bit more than anybody, wins tickets to Monday Night Raw in Rockford, Illinois from Eddie and Jobo.
Yes.
Okay, which is B96, the radio station up in Chicago. So wins tickets. Fast forward to that night. My mom has gone to this hearing. The next day she's going to get her results. If we watch that Raw, the very last thing you see on TV at the end of the night, the camera pans up to the top, and there's my mom, hammered drunk, holding a beer on national TV after having told these people at this board hearing she hasn't drank in years, right? So the whole my mom and I go down to the city of Chicago the next day because she's going to get the answer. And my dad, the whole day, has her convinced she's going to get arrested for lying to these people, sweating bullets. Thank God, obviously, nobody there saw it. But that is my funny live event story, that I got to go sit in the nosebleeds in Rockford, and my mom is on national TV holding a beer after telling under oath that she hasn't had a drink in years. That's my live event story that I thought Matt would enjoy.
What is Karl doing?
He's airing out his crotch.
That's what it looked like.
So
he's getting his framed DUI certificate. No,
I wonder, Mike, if my dad
yoga pants. I got yoga pants on.
I wonder if my dad and your mom have ever been seen in the same place at the same time, because they might be the same person.
I would agree. I'm going to trust your judgment there, and I might agree. But the only reason I would say no is so I'm not from Indiana originally. I'm from Northern Illinois.
Oh,
so,
then no, okay.
Yeah,
you got me there. Because my dad's got, and he's not going to watch us. I don't give a shit. But he doesn't even know what YouTube is, so I'm pretty sure I'm safe. He's got 7 DUIs. The 7th one came while number 6 was still suspending his license. And this is how, okay, there's dumb and then there's super dumb. So driving drunk is dumb. Driving while suspended is really dumb. Driving on this specific, here's a question. What day do you think my dad got pulled over for a DUI with a suspended license. That makes him super dumb. The
Blackout Wednesday.
New Year's Day.
The one day you probably should not do it.
New Year's Day.
Both
New
solid
Year's-
choices, but no. New
New
Year's Day.
Year's or St. Patty's are the two
4th of
biggest
July.
amateur hours.
New Year's is close.
Or 20.
Christmas.
He got pulled over for a 7th DUI with a suspended driver's license on Super Bowl Sunday.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Here's what, and Matt, maybe you could chime in on this conversation. What's fun is the guy that pulled him over, he was actually in his driveway fumbling his keys to get into the front door of his house and was still arrested.
They had a girl fall down here. How about this, Matt? Throw this your way, not to get too deep. By the way, everybody's Final Four. I do have a domino effect that can come at the end. It doesn't have to be during it. It can be at the very end. But Matt, how about this? Girl going to her car, because in Arizona, if you were in possession of your keys, going to a car to get a jacket out of the back seat to get in the lift, which was within 10 feet of her parked car, got the sweater or jacket out. This is in Old Town Scottsdale. Boom, pop for the Dewey as she's getting in the lift.
By the way, who had Fatu in their Final Four?
Nobody.
No one. Absolutely nobody. And Matt, go ahead.
Arizona has some of the harshest DUI laws in the entire country.
I believe
they're a vampire state, which means that they will take your blood and they will get it from you. I believe at one point, and I know this because I actually know one of the guys who is kind of the DUI practitioner out in the Scottsdale area. I've heard him speak on several occasions. It's a guy named Jim Nessie who practices with Joe St. Louis out that direction, out in your neck of the woods. It doesn't surprise me because every state has a different definition of what operation or physical control actually is with relation to the vehicle. Same thing back to your point, TJ. Every state has a different definition as it pertains to where the DUI can take place. There are some places that you cannot get a DUI on private property. There are other states that if you slide in safe to home, so to speak, quote unquote, you're okay. There are some states that you can literally get a DUI in your driveway. There are some states you can even get a DUI in your garage if you make it all the way in, but the door has not completely shut. Everywhere's a little bit different. And there's no bright line rule because every state, this goes back to some of the constitutional stuff we referenced earlier. Thanks for that, Santos. Some of the stuff that we referenced earlier regarding amendments and who knows what. 10th Amendment reserves certain rights to the states so they can make laws.
There it was.
So we just witnessed the finish of the Royal Rumble. Brett and Lex eliminated each other. There's still 8 minutes to go.
I love the fact, teenage me watching this was so freaking like blown away by that finish. But knowing how the sausage is made a little bit, the fact that they trusted Bret Hart to get that done, I can't imagine athletically exactly how they had to do it. Where it blows my mind how they managed to touch it exactly.
Bruce said it's
Bret Hart.
Yeah, Bruce said it's all Bret.
Did he?
Yep.
Yep.
That was all Bret.
Oh, and Matt, not to keep going off that into that or cut you off there, but is this the part where Todd Pettengill does the "let's see who it was"? Was it this? Where was it? Where he's like, "Let's see it from this angle." Can't tell there.
Yep.
We got to.
You're gonna have to call this number.
Oh,
I don't know
right.
I don't know if he does it on this show.
Okay, right. I know it's obviously I know it's this angle, but is it this show? What show was that?
I think he does it on Raw the following night. Because they don't resolve this for a few weeks.
Yeah.
I don't think Pettengill's been on this show yet.
No, he has once.
Nah, he was.
Has he?
Did I miss him?
He did a backstage with the Hearts.
Oh,
yeah.
No, that's why I tuned out. Okay.
It's really funny how Bret Hart can plan to do this perfectly with Lex Luger, yet John Cena and Batista do it perfectly by accident.
Yeah. And let's not forget The Rock and the Big Show, which was just botched horribly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wait, we should do it with the guy that's 7'3". That'll work perfect.
Wait, was 2000 supposed to be?
So it was supposed to be.
Oh, because that's why it's
like
a
this.
4-way.
But because Big Show is 7'3", The Rock touched first by about 8 inches. Like it wasn't even close because the Big Show was driving him down.
That's unreal.
You almost half expect the referees to get into a fist fight here.
So
I got Baby Earl.
I'm gonna finish my DUI story with Matt here, just to show you how this all shook out. So when he got arrested in his driveway, they took him in, obviously, and when he went to trial, probably 3 weeks later. This is 2000. I used to know this because I was watching the Super Bowl when he got arrested. I used to know which one it was, but I can't remember anymore. But he went to trial, and the judge told him, you know, you did a dumbass thing essentially. But he was, I guess in Indiana, it's not okay for you to get a Dewey by your front door. So, because technically you can't prove he was driving the car. So they told him, you have to do 30 days in jail, but we will reinstate your license at the end of your 30-day sentence in jail. And they also took the officer, and this is how also a declaration how fucked up Indiana is. He's no longer allowed to deputize Fish Lake, Indiana, but since that's happened, he's become a detective. And he is the biggest, most corrupt turd I've ever met in my life. Like when I worked at the casino, he was the biggest drunk driver in the county, but he always drove in his squad car so nobody messed with him.
To give some context into how harsh the laws are that Matt was referring to. My ex got 2 under the age of 26, and she got 90 days in rehab, 180 days in jail, and she got 9 months on house arrest, where you have to blow into a video thing. It's like a crying baby, minimum 5 times a day. It'll just start beeping randomly, so no breathalyzer.
Yeah, it's called a sober link. It's a little iPhone looking device, and it's got a tube that comes out of it. It goes off 3 times a day and 2 times at random. So 3 prescribed times and 2 times at random that it's just going to go. And if you leave it and it goes off during that period of time, you're going to be found in violation of your probation. And in a state like Arizona, there's a reasonable probability you'll flatten the duration of your sentence. The craziest Arizona story I have ever heard, there's a doctor who my understanding was sober. And he fails fields because the thing about standardized field sobriety testing, now, Phil, that's where it is true. Unless you know how fields are scored, you should never take them. It's the only test that you'll take in your lifetime that you don't know the scoring or grading criteria. If you know the scoring and grading criteria, you will inherently perform better on the test. That's proven. There's that. The science that does exist on field sobriety tests says that. Now, so he apparently failed fields. He's placed under arrest. They requested a blood draw from him. He's back at the jail. There's apparently a steel bench and then a concrete floor. They take a towel out and start rolling it out in front of him. And then they start taking the blood kit because the phlebotomist, who's the person who's going to take the blood, comes from the infirmary and starts laying the blood kit on the towel, like the needles, the syringes, everything else, on the towel that's just sitting on the concrete floor. The doc apparently was like, excuse me, what are we doing here? I agreed to take your blood test, but what are we doing here? And the response was, we're getting ready to take your blood. And the doctor says, the fuck you are. It apparently took 4 deputies and a roll of duct tape, and they taped him down to the ground and took his blood. And his whole deal was, I just want a sanitary condition in order to do it. But that's kind of the guy who I know from Arizona, who's one of the DUI gurus, that's the example he used to explain how severe the law is out in Arizona. So he then followed up with, I did not handle the civil suit, but you can imagine someone did. So it's a really, really, really complicated thing. To your point, TJ, I hope that guy has some Brady. If he is that corrupt, I hope that he has some kind of Brady or Giglio issue in his jacket, which are two cases pertaining to law enforcement that has some lack of truthfulness in their file.
He's been demoted in the last 2 years.
So that's potentially discoverable, and then you can actually ask questions of that officer under oath to determine their truth and veracity. It's hard to get, unfortunately. Sometimes. It depends on the state. Everywhere handles it a little bit different.
Now that we're off that, I never really caught this before, but Bruce has said the finish of this match has always been it was Brett that pulled this off. I never really caught how until the last time they played it. And I hope they play it again so you can see it. As soon as they both go over the top rope, so they're completely upside down, Brett wraps both of Luger's legs between Brett's legs. Yep. So Lex can't wiggle away on accident. Brett's got him wrapped up.
So speaking of wrapped up, this is actually a fantastic transition to Domino Effect because it's this. Had they put the belt on Luger at SummerSlam, and I'll get out with this, if they put the belt on Luger at the past SummerSlam, and he's maybe defending it here, or he wins it at the upcoming WrestleMania, and he goes second, let's say, and he plays hero. Does he end up in WCW and go without notice, go pull like a Baltimore Colts, leave overnight and end up in Indianapolis, and then shows up on Nitro? Does Nitro have that big of an impact? And does Nitro even go down the rabbit hole of giving results away? Because now they got into the shock value. They preconditioned the crowd, you can argue, and they're showing it again right there where he locked up his legs. Precondition the crowd to it's live, anything can happen. Oh, we just gave away the little guy is going to beat the big guy with a kick and this and that. But so if Luger has the belt, how does that, I guess the long question, to shorten it up. If Luger has the belt, how does that impact WCW, or does he still end up there no matter what? And remember how cheap they got him for, too. So if his equity goes up if he has a belt. Good.
That's a fair point. That's a very good point. Man. It's a great question. Because here's the first question you have to ask yourself is if Luger wins the belt at SummerSlam 93.
Or at Mania.
Or Mania 10. How far does he go? And who's the guy to take it from him?
I don't think it would go. Sorry, go ahead.
I would think in either case. I mean, it has to be Brett, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, either way, let's say they Vince goes, they're not really digging Luger, but maybe that just putting the strap on him is that last little bit they need to get behind him, and then they'll get into Luger because, historically they didn't go with Luger because Luger wasn't into the fans as much, and the fans weren't really buying into him, and so Vince wasn't buying into him. But let's just say hypothetically, Vince goes, all right, let's throw the belt on him, and that'll be enough. And they're still it's still going to end up in the same scenario where the fans aren't going to buy Luger as champ. They'll want Brett, and so it has to come back around to Brett.
Yeah, I don't see another way.
But does that then is he as loved? Is he as loved in Europe? And because isn't he going to come off heelish if we have this American hero? Wouldn't it be Yoko? Would it be Undertaker? I don't know. I didn't even think about who's taking it off of him or he's facing.
Well, unfortunately, with Yoko, it was after 10, they lost faith in him because his weight started to get out of control. So it narrows the pool down with Luger. I mean, here's the problem too. With Luger at this time, Undertaker's babyface, Brett's babyface, Sean's the only heel that's at that level. So if you exclude Yoko. So, I mean, it's one of those three guys. And Sean, for all the shit I said about him earlier, Sean's not ready yet in 94. He just is.
Not at all.
He's just not.
Not at all.
So you're down to Brett and Lex. I'm sorry, Brett and Brett and Taker. It has to be one of those two. It has to be one of those two guys. And I would actually think, and also if you remember after this, Undertaker's gone for 6 months after this show we just watched.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's Brett. So to your original question, does Luger value then go up when he goes to WCW?
Or does he even?
Well, I still think he goes.
I agree.
But let's just say he does for the sake of the argument. So if you're in Eric Bischoff's shoes, Sting comes to you and says Lex Luger's out of his contract, as opposed to being a disgruntled former employee you're now negotiating with, he's now former WWF champion, or maybe even current WWF champion looking to cross. You're not getting him for $125,000 a year.
But that's also where I went with it. How big of a surprise is it if you can actually get the guy with the belt on your opening, like with the belt?
Well, that's the whole basis behind the Montreal Screwjob.
Yeah,
right.
That's the whole background to it. Bruce said we knew there was no chance, zero, Bret Hart is going to go on to WCW television with the World Heavyweight title, because the lawsuit, WCW would have been done in legal fees if that ever happened. However, the issue was WCW and Eric Bischoff could say, coming up in 2 weeks, we're going to have the current WWF champion on our television. That's where that really matters.
And does it come across as copycat then to what Ric Flair had already done and taken the belt over?
Well, let's be realistic. That is why that happened. Because Flair did it in 92 or 91.
Right. So here's my thing. Darn it, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so Lex Luger, if he hops over right then and there with the world title, as opposed to, let me backtrack a tiny bit. So Lex Luger got to hop over because WWE dropped the ball with his contract. They didn't intentionally not re-sign him. They just forgot to re-sign him. There's varying stories of, he didn't do it or he denied it, and some people say that he never saw it. But ultimately, the ball got dropped with his contract.
He was working on a deal memo.
Exactly.
Is the problem.
Exactly. But if he had been world champion, that ball would not have been dropped. He would have for sure been under a solid contract, as he's represented the company. There's no way he would have been able to jump.
Right.
It's good.
Why didn't you ask this earlier?
I know. Well, I was kind of other stuff got in the way, and I know because other people need the answers because they always get something out of this, and not being selfish, but I have to. Yeah.
Well, the audience could have been spared all of that legal lariat.
No, yours was great, but I mean, in all honesty. And I'll put this around the circle so we can end the show. We'll go around the board here. Realistically, we all know the story behind Nash and Hall and, everything else. Is there a more captivating story? Just as a business perspective, as a fan trying to find their way in, than Luger crossing in 95 for the first Nitro and all the implications it meant. Because
from a pure business perspective, correct?
Right. Well, and not only that, but all of the ramifications it caused. Luger 95, let's go back. So Flair 91, Luger 95 caused Montreal 97. So
I mean, that's beautiful. That's perfect. That's actually like spot on.
Because I was to say screw job is bigger than anything ever.
Right. But I mean, with implication, is Luger, falling through his deal memo, debuting on Nitro in '95, I mean, there's a very good chance that's the biggest impact of the Monday Night War, and it's the first episode of Nitro.
All right, and this too created. Okay, so if Luger doesn't go or the way that you just posed it, and why it is the biggest deal, it forces him into the Attitude Era. Not only that, there isn't that heightened sense of why did they make Wrestling with Shadows? Because they knew his deal was up, and they knew that there was finality coming one way or the other. Is that movie even released if he stays with WWE and it's a happy ending and blah blah blah? No, it's not. It's because he jumped ship. And so, to your point, even more so, that movie, the directors aren't even thinking of making that if Luger hadn't done it already and Flair hadn't done it already. They're not even, it's like, what story is there? No, it was like, oh my gosh, is he going to leave with it?
Here's the only other thing that I can think of potentially, which is the death of David Von Erich. Because you theoretically could say that David Von Erich's death is the beginning of the end of WCCW. It also leads to territories starting to coordinate and communicate with each other that had already broken away from the NWA, both in the show in honor of him, but in theory, it's also the beginning of the death of the territories. Does Fritz push kids that aren't ready? Does Kerry have his issues? If WCCW is a strong territory going into when Vince is in the process of purchasing, what does that look like? Because Texas would have been such a big wrestling market. That being said, I still think Luger wins out, but that's the only other corollary I can think off the top of my head that's even close.
So what's important to remember about World Class in that era is their hottest was 83, 84, Freebirds Von Erich. David passes away in Japan in 84 from some intestinal virus he caught over there. WCCW never recovered, but the first Super Clash was not until 85. And the Super Clash was AWA was the driving promotion and the driving marketer of the group, but it also included World Class, included Fritz. Don Owens from Portland was involved. Jarrett in Memphis was involved, and Lawler. So it was essentially the last of these dying territories, and we got way off the rails here.
Did you notice the one that you left off though of the territories that was not invited to be there?
No, I'm talking about the ones that were.
Here's the deal, because this comment still pisses me off. I'm still angry at this. Bruce said something on the Rick LaMotta Martel one about Puerto Rico. He's like, well, I don't think it was anything more crazy than a crazy night in Texas or a crazy night here or there. No, it is, because a man was shot. Okay. Yeah. His brother was shot and killed. Secondly, Bruiser Brody was murdered
in the shower.
At the event.
In the shower.
Yes, it is a lot bigger than anything than, yes, I know it sucks getting hit in the head with a cupful of chewing tobacco or piss or whatever it is. But I was livid. I'm like, wrong. Like, I know I'm being nitpicky, but I listened to that. And I took my earbuds out. I'm like, am I missing something here? Like, I get it. There was heat. Your tires were slashed. Good old boys network. They were murdered, and they couldn't even have a fair trial there.
Right.
Off my soapbox.
It's absolutely fair. I think I knew of Brody. I didn't know of what happened. I didn't know the whole story, and I think that episode of Dark Side of the Ring was probably the one that you watched. So I'll say Brody, Owen, and Dino Bravo. For the three you watched, you got to the end, you're like, what the fuck did they just tell me?
Right. All the episodes are good.
But most of those episodes, you kind of knew where they were going. Those three, I was unaware of the mistrial with Bruiser. That who was it? Dutch Mantell and Tony Atlas didn't get their jury
until after the trial
afterwards, and then Owen all the safety precautions they ignored before Owen died. And then with Dino, I didn't know Dino was murdered, period, until that show. So how did we get here? We started talking about
That's a really good question.
I said no.
We started on
AWA territory, or the territory days, and they said there's one that they didn't invite.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And I'm like, Puerto Rico, even though it was super hot, it was also super deadly.
Yeah.
That is
literally
the Eric Bischoff moment of the night, ladies and gentlemen.
That was like Bischoff fires back. I was waiting to uncork. I wasn't going to say anything because I was like, Karl, you're going to get too passionate about it. But I was like, it's nitpicky.
Fair.
It's nitpicky, but it was like, ugh, wrong.
But what I loved about it, not only did Karl go in the weeds and pull Bischoff, I got in the weeds, and at the end I was like, what the fuck was the question? I don't remember what we're talking about.
What was the question? That's the only thing you missed.
Have we watched a Super Clash, or has that been up for one of the things to vote on?
They have not, but here's what I need to figure out how to do, guys. And then we'll close the show here on this because we've gone way over. I have Super Clash 85, where the AWA title match is Rick Martel and Stan Hansen. I have it on VHS. So I need to figure out how to convert that to DVD so you guys can watch it with me. And we'll do it as a bonus show. I want to do it as a bonus show. Because it's never going to get covered on any of the podcasts. There's no reason for it to be.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of how to get that. I'm trying to think where you can go.
Here, let me grab the tape.
It.
Let me grab the tape and I will read you the card.
Because I might be able to do. I can. If you sent me the tape, I can guarantee I could have that on DVD in the length of the. As soon as I unpack it, I have a thing in there that converts.
So first of all, here it is.
Holy shit! Wait a minute. Is that the wrapping and everything?
Yeah, this is the box, the original box. It's a little beat up, but it's the original box.
Where did you find that?
My grandma found it in a garage sale. So here's the match. Here's the card that's listed on the back of the box. The first match, AWA Junior Weight Championship. Steve Regal, which I'm pretty sure is a different Steve Regal.
It is.
And Brad Rangans. Second match, AWA Women's World Title. Sherry Martel versus Candy Devine.
That could be good.
Here's where it gets good. Listen to this one. Third match, 6-man tag team championship match. Kurt Hennig, Scott Hall, Greg Gagne against Larry Zbyszko, Ray Stevens, Nick Bockwinkel.
Good God.
Wow. Are you shitting me?
What?
The main event, Rick Martel versus Stan Hansen for the AWA World Title. So
I don't give a crap about that main event. I want to see that 6-man tag. Oh my
this
God.
Tape is 1 hour. So this is a bonus show in the making. Super Clash 85. And here's what's curious to me is I just list you all the matches that are on the back of this tape. Sergeant Slaughter is on the side cover. Where does he come in?
Wow.
Now I have to look it up. There has to be more matches than those 4.
There is. I was going to say, that was longer than, I'm looking it up right now because I'm like, I need to know where it took place. Was that Comiskey or was that not Comiskey?
Comiskey Park.
Yeah, it was Comiskey. That's what I thought. Okay.
20,347 people. So they had the AWA, the NWA, and Texas was there. World class.
How are we? It's September 28th. It's so close to the anniversary of it.
Because none of the podcast hosts were there. So there's no reason to cover it. Bischoff wasn't there yet.
Man,
so,
here we go. Oh, yeah, Mil Mosker's Buddy Roberts. Holy shit.
Jumbo Saruda and Giant Baba and Janitra and Tenru be Harley Race, Bill Irwin, and Scott Irwin.
Holy crap.
So Bill Irwin was Skinner. Scott Irwin went on to be who?
No, Bill Irwin went on to be the Goon.
Oh, that's right.
Steve Kern was Skinner.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
Kerry Von Erich beat Jimmy Garvin for the WCCW Texas title. Team Russia, which is Crusher. God, guys, we have to fucking watch this.
You got to send that to me. Flair against Magnum T8. You have to send. If you send me it,
Crusher Khrushchev, Ivan Koloff, and Nikita Koloff against the Crusher, Dick the Bruiser, and Baron von Raschke.
Oh my God!
Wait.
Jerry Blackwell with and Kamala with Sheik Adnan Al-Kaisi, who you later known as General Adnan. The Road Warriors against the Freebirds.
Yeah, I need to see this as a young wrestling fan.
Sergeant Slaughter defeats Boris Zukov for the AWA America's title. Ric Flair at Magnum T, and then Rick Martel and St. Hansen main event show. Are you shitting me?
Oh my God!
The Magnum TA, and I think this has got to be right by his accident too. It can't be far off.
So I actually interviewed J.J. Dillon in 2014. Magnum's accident was 87.
Okay, so
about a year and a half after this.
Okay, and that was a body slam match between Jerry Blackwell and Kamala for $10,000.
This is a bonus show. We're doing it.
I can. Oh man, this is unbelievable. I didn't realize it was that stacked. Is it on? Wait, is it on the network?
There's no way.
Nothing's on the network for AWA.
No, that I'm looking at the team.
I just found it on YouTube.
You found the whole thing on YouTube?
Yeah, it looks like it was actually 13 matches. Sergeant Slaughter versus Boris Zukov is on this card.
Yes.
Was the date? Wait a minute.
You're right.
Was the date like 9/28/1985?
Yeah.
Was Kerry Von Erich versus Jimmy Garvin? Jerry Cruiser Blackwell versus Kamala?
Crusher.
Body slam match. Yeah.
Oh, Crusher, sorry. Road Warriors versus the Freebirds. Flair and Magnum TA. Rick Martel. The main event was only 6 minutes.
Can you put the link in? Can you put the link in the?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it right now.
Yeah.
Wait. The main event is 6 minutes because. Oh no, never mind. No, 2 minutes. Oh, I was thinking of Lawler and Von Erich.
Well, if you remember too, Martel drops the title to Stan Hansen here in 2.5 minutes because he's leaving. He's going to the WWF.
That's sweet Vince McMahon, buddy.
He's going to join the Can-Am Connection, which Bruce just mentioned on the podcast Friday over Rick Martel.
That's like a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon connection.
There's a little,
I was watching it right there.
There's a Little People match on here too. Little Tokyo versus Little Mr. T.
Fun fact, Little Tokyo was on a WrestleMania 3 show.
The fact that he's on WrestleMania, the fact that Little Tokyo was on WrestleMania, he's on this Super Clash, and he was in UWF on the Blackjack Brawl, speaks to the career of Little Tokyo.
In fact,
Super Clash 4 is on the network.
Could we have a bonus show dedicated specifically to Little Tokyo?
And 2.
No.
all the Super Clashes are on the network except for one.
Except the one I have. Bonus show. We can be the only ones to do it. We're the only ones to cover it.
Oh my God.
I'm in.
That would be. There's some viewers right there.
All right.
Hell yes.
And I cannot wait.
Yes, brother.
Let's go around the horn and end this bitch. I'm TJ Stevens for Henry Everingham. Travis, thanks for joining us tonight. Frank Bruno, Carl Mandick, Phil Jackson, Antonio Santos, Matt Levitt, Bharat, who left us early, and also Mike Kolb left us early. And Lauren had a run into. Next week, I know Brandy's going to be here on the show.
Hey.
Looking forward to her being here. So I have no idea.
Brandy from Australia? No, I mean Alaska.
Yep.
Alaska Brandy, not Louisiana Brandy.
Alaska Brandy will be here. So I'm looking forward to next week. I have no idea what we're going to watch, but I know we're getting ready to watch Super Clash 85.
Yeah.
And I'm popping for Providence.
It's not in Providence. It's in Chicago. Thank you.
I know.
But until next time, we'll see you next week. For this show, we're desperately out of time on Top Guy Theater. We'll see you next week. The tape machines are rolling.